Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of The Fan Show. My name is Chris Cowlin and this evening I'll be co-hosting this with Gary Ward, talking about all things Tottenham, and we will of course be joined by a number of Spurs fans from all around the world talking about what you, the fans, want to talk about. Of course, it has been a very tough week, a very painful week. A 4-1 away defeat in the Premier League against our biggest rivals, Arsenal, last weekend. A 5-3 defeat on Wednesday away in Paris against PSG in the Champions League. And on Saturday night, another home defeat, this time against Fulham. It is now 3.5 months since Spurs won a Premier League home game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and that was on the opening weekend of the season against Burnley. Now, boos again at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday. Thomas Frank has managed Spurs in 7 Premier League home games so far this campaign, and we have heard boos in 5 of those games at half-time and or at full-time. Home defeats and boos seem to be a very normal thing right now at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, as well as many empty seats. It is sad times, I can tell you that. Thomas Frank has come out and said that booing players is unacceptable. Pedro Porro has also hit out at the fans, saying, "I will not be tolerating disrespect towards my teammates." A report has just been published by the Daily Telegraph, and they are stating that players have held a meeting about the problem and the issue with the fans. Now, after match week 13, a third of the way through the season right now, Spurs are 12th in the Premier League table, 5 wins, 3 draws and 5 defeats. We have 18 points. It's a long way off top 4 right now for Tottenham, and we're 7 points above the bottom 3, officially a mid-table club. I tell you what, we've got another very tough week coming up. Newcastle away on Tuesday, followed by Brentford at home next Saturday. Now I've got Gary with me. Gary, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I've calmed down a little bit from last night. I gave about a 90-minute drive home, so trying to decipher and think about all the stuff that happened yesterday was hard. But this morning there's so much coming out, and I think that my biggest concern is how split the fan base is right now. It's very split again, and I thought that it might happen given that we sacked a manager that effectively won us the trophy, and already we had such a big division, and it's just getting worse. I'm struggling for answers at the moment. I must admit.
Yeah, I've got to say, Gary, I feel exactly the same. Of course, you were at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium like me on Saturday evening. Another home defeat against Fulham. First up, let me ask you about the week. How has it been for you personally? Because it's never, ever easy losing a North London derby like we did in the manner and the fashion we did last weekend against Arsenal. No shots on target in the opening 45 minutes. Showed very, very little attacking intent. Of course, it was a very, very different game on Wednesday against PSG. Certainly in that game, it gave the fans a lot of hope about what we could have under Thomas Frank, the way that we could play under Thomas Frank. But another home defeat, more boos at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Gary, as a Spurs fan, I have never, ever booed a manager. I've never, ever booed a player. I've never booed my team off the pitch at half-time or full-time. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I know people that have, and I know people who haven't. I would never, ever say to someone, you can't do this or you should do that. People do what they feel is right. But Thomas Frank and Pedro Porro in particular, those two have come out and said, look, this is unacceptable. How do you feel about the booing, and how do you feel when you go to a home game now and hear and see the booing so often?
I'm not booing a player. I'm certainly not the one of those that's booed him after the fact. I expressed a lot of frustration in him, in Vicario and players. I can understand it, but I don't think it's right. We're so split at the moment as a fan base. This is where I think this is coming from, because half of us are saying it's okay and half of us are saying it's not. You're saying no. Others I've seen are saying that it's justifiable and there's reasons for that. But going into your original question, coming off of a really poor defeat against Arsenal, I tried to find something to reach onto, And I kept
Yeah.
I felt like I was making excuses for content and talking and saying, look, we're without X, Y, and Z, or this is happening, or that's happened, and we're going to be okay. And then PSG, we got a little taster, and it was okay. Okay, there was 5 goals there, and all of them are preventable. They're all our fault. Those goals are preventable, all 5 of them. And then I'm thinking, okay, this is a must-win on Saturday. You know, Fulham haven't won away from home. We should get ourselves a win here, start progressing on. And within 6 minutes, we're 2-0 down. And
Yeah.
it's just, I just sat there and I said to my brother, I was like, I think I want to go home. And I've never ever said that. I mean, I said it maybe once I've said it before, but I just thought, like, what are we as a football club at the moment? What are we doing? And it's just really disappointing. Really, it's hard. It feels like it's a slog being at the home games at the moment. It's not enjoyable. And especially when you have a performance such as that we're the team. We're Christmas, right? We keep on giving presents. You come to our stadium, we're not going to make it hard for you. We're going to give you a present, and you know what? We might even give you 2 if you're lucky.
Gary, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday, the official attendance that they've published, 60,546. No one on this planet was 60,500 fans there. I don't know where you sit in the stadium, but around me, I just see at the moment more and more empty seats available, which is really, really sad to see, because, you know, when we moved in that stadium in April 2019, you know, it was very hard for people to get tickets under multiple different managers, and tickets have always been very sought after at Spurs. It's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I always struggle to get tickets. I'm not a season ticket holder, unfortunately. I used to work a lot of weekends, and thankfully now I don't need to. So I go to a lot of games. I pay for a ticket in different areas of the stadium. On Saturday, I sat just in front of the media section. I walked into the halfway line. I was a relatively quite a large amount of seats free. There generally has been quite a lot around me for all of the games I've been to this season. Being a promoter or an ex-promoter myself, we all kind of exaggerate our attendances. It's kind of just the norm thing. I mean, I've done it myself. I don't know why. I think it's perception. Uh, well, it is perception. But yeah, I feel there's a couple of reasons. The football isn't good enough. There's no alignment and no connection between the fan base and the players and the manager, and all three. And it's very expensive. I don't drink or smoke or do anything recreational. This is my passion and outlet after a week at work, or if I'm not doing something with family. This is what I do. This is where I go. This is my outlet, and it is expensive. You know, it was £80 to go and watch that game yesterday, and after 6 minutes, I'm being told by my manager I'm not allowed to express my worries or concerns. My video to you today on your channel was, I was here a long time before Thomas Frank or any of those players, and I'll be here for a long time after them as well. It doesn't mean that I'm allowed to boo or do anything like that, but I'm allowed to express my dissatisfaction in what's happening in this football club, and I reserve the right to be able to do that. So I've been supporting this since I was 5 years old. Those players can go to another club. They will go to another club. They won't retire at the club. Thomas Frank will go to another club. I can't go to another club. I can't go anywhere else. So I get where he's coming from. However, it's the wrong time to say something like that. It was the wrong manner to say it. He's just thrown some more gasoline into a fire of Thomas Frank out already that was starting to simmer. It's now simmering even more. The amount of videos I've seen today of wanting other managers coming in is a little bit concerning. But I just think the way things have been done, certainly in this last week, is concerning. So I'm starting to get some concerns.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gary. We'll talk about some of these concerns shortly. Let's bring on our first guest. I say guest. He's here every single day. He's had the weekend off from the channel, but we've drafted him back in for this episode. Craig Dearman, how are you?
Hello, yes, in a bit of pain at the moment with the old back, but thought I had to pop on and speak to you fine gentlemen this evening.
Craig, how are you feeling? How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan, and what did you make very briefly of that of the game on Saturday against Fulham?
Really disillusioned and like Gary said and you said, just really sad. I thought the game was a good chance to get 3 points on the board and climb up the table a little bit, but we didn't do it, and it just started off dreadfully. Came back into it in the second half a little bit, which is what I expected us to do, but ultimately Fulham snuffed that out, and we got a goal back, but we didn't really lay a glove on them after that. Yeah, Callum had a back heel that nearly went in, but to be honest, Fulham fully deserved the win, to be fair, and it's just a bad time to be a Spurs fan at the moment.
Gary, do you want to go next?
Sorry, my audio cut out there. I do apologise. Yeah, Craig, I mean, I'm having terrible audio problems from the start.
Just like Spurs, isn't it? It's just like Spurs. Everything's going wrong at the moment.
Yeah. Where are you in terms of the overall feeling around the club? You obviously create every day. You're on this channel every single day, and you're reading messages and seeing seeing tweets and all sorts. Are you in the agreement that there is a real big divide between the fan base at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was there, like you said, Gary, just now. You know, it was there in small amounts. It's been there simmering away for a couple of weeks, and after yesterday's game, it's grown even more. That fire is burning a bit brighter, isn't it? There just seems to be a huge disconnect between the players, the fans, and the manager. Ange seemed to get that back in those first 10 games that everybody talks about. We all talk about that. It seemed to come together, everything, all the songs and everything, and it felt good to be a Tottenham fan again. And then, of course, it went a bit wrong for him in the league. Obviously, winning the cup, we'll all remember for the rest of our lives. But if I was working at the club, if I was on the board or whatever, I'd be seriously concerned about the disconnect because, as Chris said, there were seats everywhere in that stadium yesterday. You could just, I'm the same as you, Gary. I'm not a season ticket holder. I'm just a member. I like to go with a family, and if we can't get 4 seats together, then we generally wouldn't go. Previously, we'd have to be dotted around, perhaps one in the south stand, one in the east, one in the west, or whatever, which we don't really want to do. Yesterday, for a Premier League game, you could have had your choice. You could have got 4 together, 6 together, 10 together, and the numbers you put out, me and Chris spoke about this via text today, and there's no way that was the attendance. That was the ticket sold. That was the ticket sold. It wasn't bums on seats. So I'd love the club to come out next. They won't, but to say how many people are actually in the stadium. And to a degree, the club won't care about that because they've sold the tickets already. That if they go on the exchange and they sell on the exchange, the club get a 10% or something extra anyway. So they're not going to care about that. They've sold the tickets. But surely you'd want bums on seats because it's a bit embarrassing, really, for a Premier League fixture that you've got that lower crowd.
Yeah, I was just before kickoff. It was about 10 minutes before. My brother said to me, "I'm just going to go to the toilet. How long we've got?" And I said, "We've got 10 minutes." He was like, "What?" And honestly, it was empty. It was half empty. I think it wasn't even half empty. I don't know where all the people came from, but it was so much empty space around, and it's concerning. And I think that disconnect is there, but ultimately, I think financially, it's so expensive to go to their game. Like I'd heard on the radio on the way home, some lady had said she takes her husband and 2 children. It costs them up to £280 a game, and that's an extreme amount of money. And then she said, and you're telling me I'm not allowed to express my frustrations in a performance like that. And I just it's worrying. It really is.
Craig, where are you on Thomas Frank? And what did you make of his comments? Because he wasn't even asked the question. The first question in the press conference was about something completely different, about what do you think of the game? And then he mentioned the Vicario incident, saying it was unacceptable about the fans booing. What did you make of his comments? And it's another tough week coming up, isn't it? So what, obviously he needs to get 2 wins, a win at Newcastle and a win against Brentford on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, let's cover that first. The booing. I said this when Davinson Sanchez was booed when he came on the pitch and when he was playing. I don't like to see that when players are actually playing. I don't agree with that at all. However, booing the team at half time and booing at full time, that's well within the support. Well, it's well within the supporters' rights to do what they want to a degree. But if you want to boo at half time and full time, then how else are you going to get across to the club and to the fans? To the players that you're not happy with the performance. But I don't agree with booing our goalkeeper during a match. I just don't think that helps anybody or anything. So to a degree, if that's what Frank was talking about, and I think he was, then I do agree with him with that. If you're talking about booing in general, you're absolutely free to do that at half-time and full-time, absolutely. And I can totally see why. I mean, I was doing it sitting on my sofa at home, essentially, perhaps not verbally, but just moaning. Where do I stand on Thomas Frank? I mean, you're right. It's a tough week coming up. Newcastle away is never easy. And then the return, he's going to be playing Brentford. If you're asking me whether I'm Frank in, Frank out, I think it's always got to that time for me. I don't see this ending well for Thomas Frank, and I know people are going to totally disagree with me here, but I can't see this working out. So I would personally think rather than give him 2, 3, 4 more games, I can't see it changing much. Yes, people say we've got injuries and, get the likes of Kulusevski and Solanke back. But I still maintain we should be doing more with this group of players. The managers should be getting more out of this group of players. This group of players essentially won the Europa League last season. So I'm kind of at that point where, I wouldn't cry if Thomas Frank was let go. Personally, I think if you're going to do it, you should do it before the Brentford game. Thomas Frank is a nice guy. Thomas Frank is a good manager. He's just not at the right club. And I just think that would give him a bit of dignity. If you're going to get rid of him, do it before Brentford. If you sack him after his old club, I don't think that's right either. So, look, personally, this is just my opinion. I don't think he was ever going to be the right fit for Tottenham. And I truly mean it when I say I like Thomas Frank. I just don't think he's a good fit for Tottenham. But then, and if I was Vinay Venkatesham, I would be straight on the phone. Again, this is just my opinion. If I was Vinay Venkatesham, I'd be on the phone to Pochettino, thrashing out a deal for next summer to get Pochettino back. So everybody knows that's what's happening after the World Cup. Keeps the USA happy, keeps the fans happy, and gives us something to build on. That's just my opinion, though.
Who do we have in the medium then? Are we saying Poch with the World Cup, or are we saying we're letting Thomas go? Who's coming in for the Scots?
I love it. You've not been on all weekend, Craig. Now you're sacking the manager and bringing in a previous manager already next summer.
I just personally think it's not going to work with Thomas Frank. I just think you need a manager that's going to galvanise the fan base. Either way, you need to get this club back together. So yeah, in answer to your question, Gary, obviously Pochettino's going to want to stay till the World Cup. You're not going to get him before that. So that you got to face the facts. He's going to stay in America. I don't think Trump had let him go, to be honest with you. So you got to give him the World Cup. Yeah. And who'd you bring in was your question. I think you need to bring in somebody that gets the club and gets the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday during half time, David Pleat came out and he referenced the 71 team, and he also referenced 2 other teams that he felt were the greatest teams that he's seen at Tottenham. One was Harry Redknapp's side, and the other was Pochettino. And he made a few little digs as well, very sly digs of, at least those teams put the ball in the net. And he made us just a couple of little digs that not many people sort of noticed. And I thought, oh, hang on.
I did.
He's not happy. Yeah, he's not happy at all. And I love David Pleat. I'm a big fan of his. When I was coaching for the England schoolboys, I was at the St George's Park, and he was there, and he spent a lot of time with us and gave us a lot of his. He didn't have to. I've got a lot of time for him, and he's a proper Tottenham guy as well. But yeah, I absolutely adore Mauricio Pochettino. I've been Thomas Frank in constantly. However, and I've probably said this since the day he left the club, if there's an opportunity that Mauricio Pochettino could come back into this club, I'll take it all day long.
Craig, last question for you before you go. Give us some positives under Thomas Frank that perhaps we didn't have last year, because I want to try and get a little bit of balance on this situation. And I know, like you've just said, you've come on here and said, a lot of people will disagree. I don't actually agree with that, because it is very, very mixed. I think literally it's like 50-50 of people are saying, give Thomas Frank time. Michael Dawson even said it on Sky Sports yesterday, give the manager time. A lot of people have come out and said, give the manager time, because we have seen certain things in certain games where you think that is a positive. And the other thing is, some people have got to remember we did finish 17th in the Premier League last year. But where I'm at, I'm thinking, and I think you've alluded to this already in the last couple of minutes, when a manager is there, you always think when we're losing games, if you're showing signs of us improving, then you can accept that and you can accept a defeat, because you know that the players are trying, you know that the players are doing exactly what the manager wants to do. And even in the press conference on Saturday, one of the journalists actually said to Thomas Frank, look, it looked like the players didn't know what they were doing. And that is a worry for me. And things have to be better. The performances have to be better. But we did finish 17th last year. But also what you said, we did win the Europa League. So there was that winning mentality amongst the squad. Where do you see this squad going? Do you see things, could it dramatically turn around and things work under Thomas Frank? How do you see this next week going, for instance, like the Newcastle game? Do you have any sort of confidence going into that game that things can be better, where we have seen positives in games?
I'd love to be able to say, Chris, that you're going to make that very, very long trip up the country on Tuesday to see Newcastle and see us perform brilliantly and get a result. Personally, I just can't see it. I don't know where the proof is to even think that, other than blind allegiance to your club. I just can't see it happening. I see a Newcastle win all day long there. As for positives, I genuinely thought that he'd made us a bit more defensively stable, and you could have said that apart from the last 3 games where we've shipped 11 goals. And that's the thing. That's where I'm torn with it. We did look a bit better defensively, defending set pieces, even scoring from set pieces. Which seems to be the thing nowadays. It's almost gone back to the 90s, hasn't it, with the long throws and everything and longer balls. But other than that, I can't give you many more positives. I mean, I think I'm right in saying we've only played 7 through balls in the Premier League. Gary will probably know more than me. He's more of a stat man than I am. But it's something ridiculous like that. And that is coaching. That is how Thomas Frank wants us to play, surely. You've got the players in there that should be able to put those balls through. And God knows what Javi Simmons has done not to get into this team. I know he hadn't been fantastic, but you'd seen glimpses of it. And he didn't play against Arsenal. He didn't play against PSG. So he didn't start yesterday, did he? So I just think the club's a bit of a mess. And I do feel for Thomas Frank. I really do. Because as I've said before, I just don't think he's the right fit for this club. That's not his fault. He went for a job and he got the job. That's not Thomas Frank's fault. That's on the people that interviewed him and done the studying. So I can't give you many more positives than that, Chris. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Well, Craig, thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you back on the channel tomorrow.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
See you soon. See you soon.
See you, mate.
Cheers.
See you later. Bye.
Gary, on a video that you posted on this channel a couple of days ago, you were asking the question, and you also spoke about it, saying, are the Spurs fans impatient? Do we give managers enough time? Do you see this working under Thomas Frank long term? Because, like I said to Craig there, we have seen glimpses in games, particularly when he started, when we were winning games, and you thought, this is good. And also, let me ask you about your expectations now as a Spurs fan. Have they dramatically lowered in these few months?
A lot of the video really was, do we expect too much, or do we think we're something that we're not? Really is the essence of what I was trying to get at, is, what is our expectations as a fan base, as a club? Because traditionally we were always winning things in the, in the 80s and, and before, and we were a successful side, and then went through really troubling times in the 90s, and then started showing some promise again. And do we expect too much as a fan base? And sometimes I think yes, sometimes I think like we do, but you sit in a £1 billion stadium or £2 billion stadium, and we're constantly being told how like amazing our infrastructure is and amazing all the things we have, and you're only going to ultimately think we're bigger than we are, or there's an expectation. And it's concerning. I've always been very much Thomas Frank in. I am convinced by him as an individual. I've got nothing against him personally. I don't know him personally, obviously, but everything I read about him, I see about him, his coaching videos that he puts on the Coach's Voice, stuff he does with Sky Sports, the way he does his tactics, all of those things. I was so excited because I felt we were so behind where we could be under Ange. I thought Ange had put some good things in place, and I thought Thomas Frank could take us to that next level. And I really believe that he could develop players. You look at Brentford, the amount of people that he developed and had gone on to better things, but he constantly was churning out. And I thought to myself, wow, if we've got someone that can do this, look at our academy. I follow our academy a lot. Look at our academy, the players we've got coming through there. Look at some of the younger lads we've got in and around the first team. Look at some of the people on the fringe or out on loan. And yesterday, he looked broken in that press conference. He looked like all the other managers. What the fuck am I doing here? He looked like, oh my God, like what is going on? And it's soul destroying for us as fan base. It must be difficult for managers. I like him as an individual. I'm excited by him, and I want him to succeed so badly. I'm just not sure. And last week after the Arsenal game, I spent about 3 hours deflecting honestly, it was about 400 comments I'd had on a Facebook page post and Twitter, where I was saying, okay, what's the answer? Tell me what the answer is, because I believe it's Thomas Frank. And I've criticized myself 7 days later because we've shipped 11 goals in 3 games, and I've just seen 3 soulless performances, and I'm actually a little bit worried. I'm concerned now, really concerned.
Gary, quick yes or no: will Thomas Frank be Spurs boss on the 1st of Jan?
Yes.
Okay. Right, let's go to our next guest. We're going to go to America, and we're going to talk to Wes, someone I haven't spoken to in a long time. Wes, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Chris? Yeah, how are you?
Very good, Wes. Great to have you on again. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan? What have you made of this past week, the 3 defeats?
It's been horrible. That part is where, of course, everybody's upset and frustrated about. It's been a difficult couple weeks, and I think we all have noticed this the last couple of years. It's always around this time. It's always around that November time is when we start seeing where we're actually at, and I think we see that, and it's usually the same merry-go-round. The coach is usually under pressure. Fan base, pretty much turns its head, which I understand that the players and the coach is upset about how the fans are booing, but what do you expect them to do? They're paying crazy money. We paid I think I've never went to a game just yet, but I know for other fans that do go to the game, they pay top dollar to go see Spurs play, and you're giving up 2 goals in about 5 or 6 minutes of the game. Like, what do you expect? Like, you expect them not to boo? Like, it is what it is. You guys are adults. You guys are professional athletes. You understand the heightened pressure that it is playing for a club like Tottenham. I understand that we're not the creme de la creme as of yet, or from our past glories, but we still see ourselves as a top club, and we should act like that. We should expect that from the players. The players haven't been given it. That goal that the goalkeeper, like, come on, you should just kicked it out, and you can't just give up that kind of stuff. And I understand that Frank, he was upset with the fans booing him. I think during the game they were booing him whenever he got the ball. But what do you expect? Like, we see nonsense happening on the pitch that shouldn't just happen, and we're kind of like seeing as then we have to deal with it as fans from other other fans from other clubs and stuff like that. And that gets very frustrating when you got players just doing dumb decisions that's putting themselves in the hole, you know. And I almost want to see a different change in the goalkeeper. I almost want to see Kinski, because I didn't get to talk about this on We Are Tottenham on TV, but I was on their show yesterday, and I forgot to mention, I had it in my notes, that I feel like we need probably more of a better passing goalkeeper, like a Kinski. We got that on the bench with Kinski. I think Kinski can grow into being a better shot stopper as well. I think he has that ability. He definitely had that when we scouted him before we got him on the club. I do think that will probably help with our unlocking our offense a little bit more, is having more of a passing keeper. Because right now the current one is, he's not able to really pass the ball out very quick enough. It's very lethargic, very slow. And that's one of the causes of our problems offensively.
Whereas I can hear your passion and frustration as well, which is obviously a big thing for a lot of the fan base right now. And I'm saying to a lot of people, like, what is the answer right now? Because things aren't working. Now the fan base is obviously split, but I'm not Thomas Frank out. I don't want to constantly have it. No, and I don't think this rinse and repeat is the right thing to be doing. But what is the answer in your opinion right now?
Well, this has been a main topic for, I think, a lot of Spurs fans, is we can't just go through the same cycle of keep firing managers. Sooner or later, we give all the praise to Pochettino, but if you look at Pochettino, he had years to be there and grow that system to what we saw as beautiful, when we were playing that good football that everybody misses. And it takes a couple of years. You saw with Arsenal, they stuck by their manager, even though everybody was laughing at them at first. And now you see that he's able to build a team. You got to allow these managers to build the team that they want to, that they actually want to coach, and that what the system or style of play they want to play. But they also got to get the players that they want, and it takes time, So if we scouted Frank throughout the offseason and we saw him as the man to take us into the future after Ange, then they got to back him. And they got to just go ahead and go through this fire that we're going through. And they got to believe in him and build around him and into his ideals of what he sees this team playing as. If we just keep firing him because he's on the bad run of form, like, we're just going to keep on going through the same cycle like we have been the last 5 or 6 years. We went through like 7 managers. If y'all really think, like, it feels like 7. I don't know if that's the exact number, but it's like that. We're up in that kind of number now. I won't be surprised if we go into double digits in the next 2 years. So it's ridiculous. We can't expect us to be consistent as a club if we're just changing managers. There's going to be other managers when we fired it. Like, say we fire Frank, what managers want to come here? It's not going to be the greatest of names. If people, like, we tried that already, and I think right now we got a bad rep when it comes to that. So we got to be able to stick by the manager. Now, I don't like what he's saying in press conferences. I think some of his press conferences has been pretty bad. I think I know he's a very honest person, but I feel like that sometimes hurts him. He may needs to choose what he says carefully, because clearly he's seeing that, the press, the media can get on you very quickly, especially as the Spurs boss. And especially now he's with a more higher level club than where he was at Brentford. And
you look at Brentford in their press conferences. Brentford would have maybe 1 or 2, 3 people from the press in there.
Yeah,
Tottenham,
and they would be
as
happy.
Chris will know.
And they talked about that, and they would just, the reason that he probably, he was probably so loved there is because they were just happy to be in the Premier League, for the fact that they're not as much mid-table and not having them fight relegation and everything like that. Like, they saw that as, oh, this is a dream. Like, he's doing a wonderful job. And now he's seeing that that's not going to be the way that works here. No, we're trying to go after stuff. We're trying to compete. And I think he's starting to wake up to that. I think he's getting that pressure now. But I'm sure he knew that coming into the job. I think he finally sees it with his own eyes. Like, okay, yeah, I can't. This kind of stuff. It's just not going to work. But he also needs to probably buy some time, because I can see us finishing in the top 10 maybe, and that can, as a building off. But that's better than the 17th place. But he has to find some way to get the fan base on board with what he's trying to build. And that, hey, guys, it's not going to be this year that we're going to start actually competing, maybe next year or something like that. But he has to get some type of belief. But right now, we actually need to see something. Right now, we don't even know what kind of system he wants to play. You don't know how he wants to set up the team. He changes formations. It feels like every match. The last match, I don't even know what kind of formation we were even playing. We didn't even have a left winger. It seemed like the way.
Yeah.
If you look at the pitch, go look back at the game. We didn't have nobody on the left side in front of Udoji.
No, it was a diamond too. It was a diamond formation, but
and some people don't even think it was a diamond. Like,
it
so
was.
It was a diamond. So that's the weird thing. I'm like, okay, so what are we doing here? You can't do that. Like, at most, I say for the players, so they can stay on a consistent level how we should play. This should at max be maybe 2 formations he tackles on different situations to me, because then his players can stay familiar with it, and then you could build something off of that. If you're changing it to a diamond, to a back 3, to a regular back 4, like, you're just going to get the players, and then they're not going to know where they want to be positionally. And you could tell them a couple of days before the game, but everybody knows you got to get that embedded into their head for them to actually start using that and executing that. Because right now on offense, you see there's no triangles. There's nobody to pass to. Everybody gets on Xavi and Kudus for holding the ball too long and doing these light passes. Almost like they're used to having players in certain areas where they can pass it to and do a back and forth and do a little tiki-taka. And that's how they played at their previous clubs, more Xavi than Kudus. But Xavi, he's used to having those triangles and playing with players who are very good technically. And right now, they're not seeing that. So how they're supposed to create? It's kind of like we need an attacking midfielder or like a player who's very good at dribbling and just aggressive at just driving straight at the defenders and causing havoc that way. But you don't really see that in modern football like that no more.
No, it sounds like we need Kulichevsky back, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It'd be great if we had those attacking players, Madison, Solanke, Kulichevsky. That would be a different scenario altogether. Whereas, lastly, I wanted to ask you about the style of play and the formations and the team selection. Do you think that Thomas Frank does know his best 11? Because I said at the start of the season, I think a lot of people agreed with me, certainly the channel regulars on here, thinking it was a real positive thing that, an opposition manager could never pick Thomas Frank's starting 11, as we can't as fans pick his starting 11. We never know what he's going to do, particularly with the formations like on Saturday with no player on the left hand side. But are you seeing signs of improvement? Because this, for me, is a worry. In my opinion, because we have heard this term time and patience so often under multiple different managers, as you've just said. But as long as you see some signs of improvement week by week, then the fans are on board. And then when you get the likes of Thomas Frank and Pedro Porro today have come out and said, having digs at the fans, you need those fans on board. You've mentioned the media as well. But the fans you need on board 100%. Are you seeing signs of improvement under Thomas Frank? Because as Gary and a couple of other guests have said, and a couple of the guests on the Spurs Chat podcast yesterday, you've got to be progressing and you've got to see something moving. Are you seeing it?
I'll say at the moment, I don't really think I'm seeing that. I think the only thing that I do see is that some of our younger players like Bergvall and Archie Gray, I think they're kind of more ready to be more of the main focal point of maybe his future, of what he sees as the future players for him, for what he sees for this club. I do think they should be even Sarr. I even add in Sarr for that as well. Paulina, he has been a great signing, but to me, I think for offensively, he has nothing to offer offensively. His play on the ball is a little slow. Sometimes it looks like he's just running into the other players, and then he'll lose the ball. He's very good at being a defensive midfielder of getting back possession. And I think in certain situations we are going to, of course, need a player like that. But I feel like we need a player that kind of could do both of that. Kind of like I'm forgetting his name, but back when Pacha, during the Pacha era, what was the midfielder name that was kind of like the dragon in that midfield that could do both as a defensive midfielder? I'm forgetting his name.
Dembele.
Yeah, Dembele. Like that's we never replaced him. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of players we haven't replaced, and that's that's another sad thing. There's a lot of players we have never replaced. I don't even know when we were replaced Son and Kane. I don't know when that's ever gonna happen. But we need a player that can kind of do both of those things, but still do stuff offensively. And I think that's one of the problems. But I haven't seen really anything that tells me that there's an identity that he wants this team to play. And that's been the main, I think, breaking point for a lot of fans when it comes to Frank. But I do think he's starting to understand that maybe some of the personnel that he should go forward with, which I think is the younger midfielders like Archie Gray and Bergvall. They're the only ones who are really trying to go after it. Even Sarr, sometimes Sarr has struggled on these last couple games as well. He's kind of been a little bit in the shadow a little bit, but I feel like he can come along if he puts him back in more and more frequently. He's been kind of putting him more on the bench. And I think he at least sees, I saw improvement at least with that, but there's a lot of holes in this team at the moment, and a lot of players are not playing consistently, and that's really the problem. And you know, he has to figure out that.
Wes, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have you on again very soon. Thank you. You so much.
Yeah, I'd love to. I know I'm back. I'm back from school, so I'm back one more semester, and then I graduate from college. So I'm off for now. So you need me? Hey, I'm here.
Brilliant. We'll be in touch. Thanks, Wes. Cheers. Right, we're now going to go. We're going to go to England. We're going to go to Jamie. Matt, we'll come to you next. Jamie, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, Chris. Gary, how are you? Apart from the football, mate, it's all, life ain't too bad. But Spurs are.
Jamie, I remember having similar conversations, which I'm guessing what sort of conversation we're going to have, and it don't feel like long ago we were having this conversation about Ange Postecoglou. But how are you feeling right now about Thomas Frank and certainly the atmosphere? I know you're a season ticket holder.
I'm completely down the middle, if I'm honest with you, Chris. I can't. Part of me thinks, you know, we can't keep sacking managers. We've got to stick with someone. I thought it was the right decision in the summer, but we've got to get behind one manager and back him. The other part of me thinks, I don't think this is going to work, and why wait any longer? I'm really torn, to be honest with you. I don't know what way to go, and it's embarrassing keep sacking managers, you know. But
do you know? Can I ask this? Because my expectation at the start of the season was pretty high. My expectation of Spurs is always pretty high. I always want to win trophies, always want Tottenham to be successful. And over the weeks, I feel like my expectation has come down and it's been lowered. Is it that we are expecting too much, like Gary said earlier? And, you know, should our expectations be that Spurs are actually a mid-table club? You know, we finished 17th last year. We haven't put an awful lot of money into the recruitment in the summer. You know, we wanted players like Morgan Gibbs-White, wanted players like Eze. We ended up with Javi Simmons. Javi Simmons at the moment is struggling to adapt to the Premier League and even struggling to get a start under Thomas Frank in the Premier League. So do those expectations just need to be lowered to say, look, Spurs are a mid-table club, so getting some of these results sometimes is not that bad? Or am I losing it? I don't know what's right or wrong. I don't know what to believe anymore.
I honestly don't know, mate. Like you say, my expectation. If you offered me 10th now, I'll probably take it, and that's bad. I mean, I was thinking maybe a bad season, maybe 8th, maybe. At the moment, I can't see us getting anywhere near the top 6. The way we're playing, we seem to be going backwards, which is why you start thinking, is he the right bloke? But it's not just the manager, Chris. It's collectively as a club at the moment, we just seem a mess. You know, I think the squad has been highlighted to be bang average. You know, some of the players we've brought in, we just haven't replaced it. Like I thought it was the right time for Son to go, but we haven't replaced him. We've got Weaker on the left. We desperately need a winger. You know, it's not just there. I think maybe the goalkeeper needs upgrading. We need another forward. But the injuries haven't helped. I think sometimes you realise a good player when they're not there, if you know what I mean. Like Kulusevski, Maddison, at the moment, they walk into the starting 11, you know, and we need to get better. Well,
Gary, Jamie, Gary, let me just ask you quickly. That is a great point from Jamie there about Heung-min Son, because you would think as a football club, you are letting a superstar go. You know, the amount of people that came to the stadium, you know, just to see Son play as well. But when you're letting a player like that go, the assists, the goals, etc., everything that he brought to this team and the stadium, surely there should have been some sort of plan to bring in a left-sided player of real quality to match his ability.
It comes down to the recruitment, and it's come down to recruitment since Pochettino was with us in the Champions League final. We've never had a contingency. We've never forward thought. We all knew as Spurs fans, there's more than likely, that was going to be Son's last season. If we're thinking that, the club surely are thinking that, and he's probably making it known as well. The club should be looking at players in and around the league. For me, straight away, my big a worry is we've got Tell. We bought Tell for what, 40 million in the end, something like that, 30, 40 million. We didn't even put him in our Champions League squad. He's a left-sided player. We haven't put him in our Champions League squad, and he gets 2 or 3 minutes a game. Granted, he came on and scored against United. Don't do anything else. So there's a recruit. Why have we spent that money there? Because we've had him for the last season, and really he didn't do a lot from January to the end of May anyway. So there's a constant recruitment issue with our club, and it's been going on for years. For me, I would have gone, okay, we've got 1 or 2 young players coming through. Mikey Moore. Mikey probably needed to go out on loan. Okay, Rangers are interested. Right, what do we need? Mikey's probably going to be our answer here. There's a guy up in Manchester that's won the Premier League a few times. He's won the Champions League as well. He's available on loan. Should we go and get Jack Grealish? Oh, let's go and do that. He can bring in. He's Premier League winner, Premier League proven, Champions Leagues, and England international. It's actually probably my favourite outside Harry Kane to watch as an England player because he reminds me of Gaza. I feel like he can change a game. He can come in on that left-hand side, do us a season. Mikey Moore might go up to Rangers and have an absolute stormer up in Glasgow. There's a plan. I mean, and we just don't have any plans. And there's a recruitment issue. It goes back years and years and years. We have an inability to sell players. We have an even worse ability to sign players that are of quality.
Jamie, let me take that back to you because Gary mentioned Jack Grealish there. I would have certainly taken Jack Grealish, and I said this on a number of videos and episodes that I put out. But whenever I mention Jack Grealish on the Tottenham News or 60-second updates, so many responses from the Spurs fan base was like, "Don't want him." Can we be very snobby about players sometimes?
Yeah, maybe we can be snobby, but we shouldn't be. We should have gone for it. Spoke about this with Craig and the channel earlier in the season. We should have went for him. He would have, because he improves you straight away. He can't be snobby like Gary said about Tell. That was, I'm not being funny, but that was a waste of money. Why didn't they put that towards Semenyo or someone like that? You know, prove them in the Premier League. And if they're not going for him on the 1st of January, then there should be a lot of inquiries, if you like, going on because we desperately. He walked. I mean, how good was he against against us playing for Bournemouth? I think it was a second game. He absolutely tore Paulo apart, and I like Paulo, but we know he can be a bit vulnerable defensively. But yeah, he tore us to shreds that day. That's the sort of player we need to go if we want to get to where they're saying about the ticket pricing and all that. Well, we're not getting value for money. I mean, my 1,300 quid, just about 1,300 quid, I think it was. I paid. Absolute garbage what we've seen this season so far, you know. So they're the sort of players we need to go, and they need to put on a show, you know.
It feels like for me that we struck it lucky, right? We got a player through our youth academy that turned into be probably one of the best strikers we'll ever see in person. We spent 15-20 million on a lad from Southampton that turned into an absolute incredible superstar in Gareth Bale. Did relatively the same with Luka Modric, and then we got it lucky again with Song. I just think the recruitment from the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years have gone, can we find these gems and then sell them on? This is Football Manager we're going to try and do in real life and find these. And it's becoming increasingly harder and harder to get hold of these sort of gems because everybody's doing it. We're, as fans, we're saying a 28-year-old, 29-year-old Jack Grealish that's won the Champions League, that won everything, isn't good enough. What?
Ridiculous.
We've got to be. Look at Napoli, right? With Conte at the moment, he won the Serie A last season. He went in there and said, "I want people that are going to win the Serie A this season." And then he's come back this summer and said, "I want players that are going to make sure I can win the Serie A again this season." We should be looking at Premier League proven players from around the continent that improve us right now, but also are good individuals that can look at a Mikey Moore, that can look at Lucas Bergvall, that can look at an Archie Gray and say, right, come here. This is how you do things. Not go up to him and start shouting at him in the middle of the centre circle because he's clapping his fans. We have to have proper professionals that are willing to develop, but also can help us succeed. And our recruitment's just is all over the place.
Jamie, lastly, let me ask you about the players applauding the fans at the end of games. Do you leave early? Do you applaud the fans? Do you wait behind afterwards? And and clap the players and then wait for them to come over to applaud the fans. What do you make of all of this? Because it does seem to be very different now. And of course, we're hearing the report from the Telegraph today that the players have even had a meeting amongst themselves because they feel there's an issue with the fans. Certainly the booing inside the stadium.
Yeah, with the booing, I think at half-time or full-time, if we've been absolute crap, which we have been, I can't see a problem with the booing. You pay a lot of money for it. I think you should be entitled to voice your opinions of it. I think booing a player during the game, like Vicario yesterday, I think that was a bit over the top, because at the end of the day, you're just hammering the geezer. Like 60, it must be awful. 62,000, well, we weren't there yesterday, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The amount of people watching you, absolutely, it must be awful. But staying at the end of games, I'll be honest with you, I normally go and have a beer downstairs. I'll be honest, like I don't normally stay at the end, or I try and get away on the train, but try and get a good group of black, if you know what I mean. But yeah, with the players applauding, they should really show the appreciation. The fans will turn it so. Yeah.
Jamie, just before you go, give us a score prediction for the Newcastle game. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
I'll be honest with you, Chris. I think he's got 2 games to save his job. I don't see us beating Newcastle. I think maybe 2-0. I can't see us getting nothing up there. Brentford, maybe the weekend might be a bit different. I don't know, but I can't see us getting nothing up there. It's sad to say.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
Well, Jamie, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, cheers, lads.
Cheers. Right, we're now going to go to America to talk to Matt, and then we'll come to Darren. Matt, you and Darren, I tell you, I can't wait to talk to you two because you two are normally positive people. So bring the positivity. Come on, give it to me.
All right. Well, it's good to see you both. You both looking very healthy. First time I'm making the acquaintance of you, Gary. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Matt. How are you?
Very good, very good. Okay, I'll try to bring some positivity. I guess over the last 2 matches, we've finally seen like Gray and Bergville get some time. And so that's a good thing. Randall Colomani has been like a revelation. Like he's really played very well, and I think we could clearly see why he was called up to the French national squad recently. Why he's been in that squad before. Why he was part of that World Cup team that went all the way to the final, I believe, in 2022. He has so much class. Like he's got power. He's got technique. He's got the ability to bring players in. And going back to Gray and Bergville, finally Gray had some excellent touches. He played himself into some dangerous positions. His interplay with Bergville for the goal midweek in PSG, where Gray chipped it to him, was brilliant. I love I think it was a little behind the standing leg pass. And it created so much space for Archie Gray to chip onto Randall Colomani. But I guess that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I wish I had something more solid, but it's hard to see a lot of the positivity, any positivity besides that, because the performances at home have been terrible over the last 3 games, the last week of matches. Like you guys have pointed out, we've conceded 11 goals. Yes, the 11 goals is a lot, regardless of opposition. I understand we just played Arsenal, we played PSG, and both of them in their own houses. So I could totally understand that to a certain extent. But 11 goals and to concede 2 goals within the first 6 minutes at home to Fulham, when there's so many articles that have been written in the last week or so about pressure, and the players are not really, responding to it. It feels like there's a disconnect between the fans again. It's really a rough time to be a Spurs fan. I feel like we're stuck in purgatory, but I think with purgatory, at some point there's an ending, but we're not. It feels like it. We just. Oh my God! It seems like we're just constantly getting kicked in the junk, all day. Hey, how's your weekend going? Is it going good? Not anymore.
Yeah, this is the life of a Tottenham fan, and even if you're on social media too, right? You'll get kicked even when we win, let alone when we're losing. I want to ask you, Matt. Javi Simmons is one of an incredible football player, incredibly creative, does it internationally, but is struggling very much for confidence, I think, at the moment, and coming up to speed with the Premier League. Where are you with Javi Simmons? Is it we just need to play him through this confidence issue, or are you happy with him sort of it as he is currently now?
I think you just got to kind of bite the bullet with any young player or any player who's new to the league. You just have to play them. Give them 5 to 10 games straight. Let them play and learn it. I mean, do you guys, earlier on the show, you guys were talking about Luka Modric. Luka Modric, remember when he got here? Everybody said, too lightweight, too lightweight. Oh, well, no, the kid has class. You just got to play him. We played him a bunch of games. It started off on the left wing just to, ease him into it. But he learned the whole game. And Xavi has that same ability, those same qualities. It's just he needs that time. And this whole, in the last week, I think he's had maybe 60 minutes total over the past 3 matches. I mean, that's not how you develop a player. A player who's had so many incredible stints at Leipzig, at PSV, he was at PSC, and he had this incredible upbringing, this incredible academy work at Barcelona and PSG. You got to give him time. I mean, it's a new league, it's new teammates, it's a new style, new coach. The coach, I mean, there's concerns about maybe how the coach is trying to get the most out of an attacking player such as Xavi, and I think that's a question that should be asked. Does Frank have what it takes to really pull to get the talent out of him, to give him the tools to succeed? And that's what a proper manager does. I'm not sure if Frank has ever worked with a talent such as Xavi, so I think there's a big problem there. But yeah, I think you just got to throw him into it and just play him, even if it's on the left wing, and just play him for a couple of matches, see what you get. I mean, he did. I think there was a couple of matches before one of the international breaks. I think they played against Leeds, and him and Udogie and Odegaard combined very well. There was a match prior to that. I think they combined well there. I mean, so it seems like for every time there's something good that happens with Spurs, something changes and then they disappear. Sarr scored all those goals in the beginning of the season, and then he disappeared. Gray started the first match of the season, played so great, didn't play again until he got 1 minute against Brighton, and then played 90 minutes against Doncaster. I mean, it seems like there's so many starts and stops, and this does not help these youngsters. My big thing is
Frank was spoken about as this manager who could develop young players, and we have a lot of young players. We have Destiny Udogie, Papamat Sarr, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergveld. Teams were going for these young players. We have Odegaard, we have Matthias Tell. We have all these youngsters, Mikey Moore, and we're not. And it's just too stop and start. You can't do that with youth. They're at the age where they need to play consistently. Archie Gray shone at Leeds because he was playing consistently. Udogie shone the last 2 seasons because he was playing consistently. You gotta let these players play and make mistakes. So, but I'm not really sure what's the reasoning why Xavi is not getting a lot of time, but it's a worrying thing.
With Thomas Frank, do you think it's maybe that he's used to playing Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday? He's not used to this additional games during the week. And I think that the press conferences are draining him straight away. You can tell that from yesterday. Yeah. He's now doing 4 a week, maybe, where he was doing 1 a week. He's now having to play 2 games. He's playing every 3 days. He's never done that before. Is he now struggling and he's trying to use the squad, but he hasn't actually figured out what his first team is yet?
Let me add to that, Matt, as well. What Gary's just said. Do you think that do you feel the criticism aimed at Thomas Frank? Do you feel that is fair?
Okay, so it's 2 parts. So I think going to Gary's part, I do agree that this is all new territories for him. He doesn't know how to handle the fact that we only have 1 or 2 days between matches, because you guys know how it is juggling. We've seen other managers succumb to this, they fall into this trap of playing in Europa, you do the Sunday and Thursday, and then everyone's exhausted. You have no time to game plan and to put an identity on. And I don't think Frank did a great job of putting some kind of identity on in the preseason. So he's trying to piece it together almost like day by day as we go and kind of letting the players play it out. But it's clear that they've been coached to like play a very risk averse type of system. And now that we're in trouble, it seems like he doesn't have the time or the ability to kind of get him playing out of that system, to create a little bit more, to open up and take a risk. It's very difficult to see like how Frank can make this work. And go to Chris's point, you could clearly see that Frank does not like these press conferences. I think Gary and Chris alluded to it. He doesn't know how to answer them because instead of, I think somebody else made a point that he's used to having 3 reporters at these things in Brentford, and it's 1 per week. Now it's 4 per week with 14 reporters from The Guardian and this one and that one and all these other things. And they ask the same question 17 different ways. Hey, are you feeling the pressure? Hey, do you know how to get yourself out of this mess? Hey, what's your bad relationship with the fans? And I feel like sometimes he does not know how to communicate well because he seems like he's throwing fuel on the fire with the communication between us, like the fans and him and the team.
Yeah.
And I understand that the fan base is always divided. This is something that we're all guilty of. We have these reactions. We go on our social media. We say, this is ridiculous. I've had enough. And then you calm down about it and you become more realistic and you're like, okay, we're kind of in a stuck situation. It stinks, but let's try to make the best of it. But then you get riled up again because you see a performance where we post a 0.01 XG in the first half. And then you're like, are you gaslighting me? Like, I really feel like Thomas Frank sometimes is gaslighting me when he says, like, I thought we played well. I think like if one of these 2 things went this way, sometimes I see I'm seeing some things. I mean, it's clear, like, from what I'm seeing, and I'm not Frank out, I don't know what the solution is, but it's clear that he's not comfortable. He's not happy in this situation. It seems like he doesn't know how to handle this situation. And it seems like a lot of the players don't really think that he understands, like, it's really getting it, like, or is communicating well enough to the players to kind of help them through this situation. I mean, he was supposed to be this master communicator. And I feel like a lot of what he says gets misconstrued. He gets, like, calls for these follow-up questions. I think he was like glaring at a reporter the other day. I mean, it's a really bad look from him. So it's tough. We're in a really bad situation here, guys.
He was very short in the post-match press conference after the Fulham game, which I suppose can be expected. But I've never seen Thomas Frank like that in a press conference before. I know I've not watched the whole of the whole time that he was at Brentford, but I've never seen him be that short with journalists before. I know what you said there, Gary, about the amount of press conferences that he's done, and of course he's going to be doing one on Monday ahead of the Newcastle game. Then of course after the match, then of course ahead of the Brentford game on Friday. Then one after the game on Saturday. So yeah, these press conferences are relentless, and Ange Postecoglou said exactly the same thing. But I'm with you as well, Matt, that when a manager comes out and says we played well when we clearly didn't, you cannot kid the fans. Whether you're saying things in there for the players to try and get confidence that they've played well, I just don't buy that. I just can't see why a manager would come out and say these things when the fans clearly know that we did not play well. And this element of management, it does remind me of Nuno Espirito Santo, and I don't like that. I really don't. You've got to say it how it is sometimes. We haven't played well, come out and say we haven't played well. We're going to try better next time. Matt, always a great guest. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you soon.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep up the great work. I'm really enjoying the stuff lately.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you. Right, we're now going to go to my good friend Darren Altman, who, of course, I had a pint with before the Fulham game. Darren, how are you?
Oh, I'm just a bit drained. Just a bit drained by it all. It's
Hold on.
wearing me down.
You just messaged me saying you're going to bring the positivity. Where is it?
The positivity. I'll tell you what the positivity is. We put our Christmas tree up today, Chris. It looks beautiful.
Fantastic.
There you go. There you go. It looks really nice.
Is that where we're at? Is it?
I'll show you later if you're lucky. I'm just drained. We had a pint yesterday, and thank you for your message, by the way. That was very sweet of you. I'm just a bit drained, and it's like our club has got the ability just to suck all the joy. When we were messaging on our little group this morning, you know, I think I left a voice note and I said, you know, after the Europa League, it was our ability to really kick on as a club. You know, we got Champions League football. We were champions of Europe, the Europa League, obviously. We had the opportunity to sign marquee players. They could all come to the Premier League. They could play in the Champions League, eat at the top table of European football. And we are where we are. You know, we sacked Ange. He didn't get his third season. We got Thomas Frank in, who, as I said on the messages, you've heard this before, Chris, so I do apologise. But when we got Frank in, I thought he was going to be a breath of fresh air. I thought we've got a guy who deals in data and stats, who's really into the minutiae of football. Excuse me, didn't have this sort of gung-ho shit or bust. This is the way we play, mate. Like, you know, like Ange did. He was really data driven. He would analyze, and I thought that would make a change. That's what we need. Come on. We got him in, and we're just, all the joy is sucked. I'm not impressed with our signings, really. I think they flattered to deceive, and we've got a manager. And I was at the game yesterday with you, Chris, and I just didn't get what was going on. I didn't have a clue. Tactically, I don't understand what team he picks from one game to the next. Like Matt said, there's no consistency. He can't play the same team for 1-2 games in a row. I just don't get what he's trying to do. I just don't get what he's trying to do. And today, when I was trying to catch up on all the interviews, I heard him on 5 Live. I heard him on Talk Sport. And the first thing he wanted to do was criticize the fans. He didn't want to hold his hands up. He said, I thought the first half was dreadful. I thought we played well in the second half. I thought, you on mushrooms? We played well for 10 minutes. And then he threw the kitchen sink at it. It was like he went, oh, fuck it. I'll just put them all on, take it. And he swapped everything. We went 3 in the back. And it was just like, oh, come on, oh, sod it. Go on, Elderbird, go on. Took Bergvall off, who I thought was playing well. I just don't have a clue what he's up to. I'm clueless now. I'm clueless. It's really upsetting.
Darren, I was always quite positive in that I couldn't predict him. And I came on Chris's podcast and I've done videos on it. And I was like, I actually quite like that I can't, as a fan, as we all do, and the hundreds of people that are watching this, we can all try and predict what our team's going to be. And actually, well, that's really good. If we can't predict it, the opposition can't. But actually, I don't think our players know what we're doing at the moment. And I'm really...
It's funny, Gary, because we all saw it as a positive, and now we're all scratching our head thinking, well, actually, this isn't a positive anymore.
I agree with you.
I looked at that formation.
Sorry, Gary.
Go on.
I agree with you too, and I thought exactly like you, Gary. I thought the idea that this guy isn't afraid to change and isn't afraid to make substitutions and see what's going wrong and adapt, but he's got his head in his monitor all the time. Like get your head out your bloody monitor.
There was a concerning element yesterday. It was on the halfway line. It was in the second half. And he was shouting at Pedro Porro to come more towards him. And Pedro Porro was pointing at Raul Jimenez, who was marking. He's like, no, come to me. And then, so he's like, well, no one's got him. He's going, pull Mickey over. And then Mickey's going, well, I'm marking him. And then Thomas went, oh, and then just walked off. And I thought, to my brother, I said, did you see that? And he went, yeah. And I said, that's concerning that he's trying to tell them what to do, but they're saying what? And that's the first time I came out of that stadium yesterday going, oh shit, I think I'm backing someone that might not be right, and I've gone to heel for it. I've really got behind this guy, and I've looked at yesterday those particular, he done that a couple of times, and then that formation again with this diamond to put Lucas Bergvall the left of the diamond that wanted to keep drifting in, and we're just glaring like there's so much space, and I'm thinking, oh no, is this not right? This might not be right for us.
Darren, Darren, do you think that Thomas Frank will be Spurs boss at the end of the season?
Oh, if we carry on playing like this, then no. I mean, I can't see. We're going to lose to Newcastle. I mean, they thumped. Was it 4-1 yesterday? Everton. They thumped Everton 4-1 away. They're going to have their tails up. They're going to be licking their lips, bringing us to their ground. I mean, all right, we're not doing too badly away from form, but this is going to be a kick in the nuts for those players. No, in answer to your question, if he carries on like this, there's no way. A couple more points. This side-to-side thing again. I mean, I think it was after 3 or 4 minutes, I shouted out, "Forward, pass it forward."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't get why we take the ball up to the halfway line, and the next thing you know, it's back with Vicario. I mean, where's that missive come from? Where did that come from? And you watch the game today, Arsenal-Chelsea, and they're playing lovely little balls through the lines, and players are finding space and they want the balls. It's just a little, 5-yard pass or 6-7 yard pass, and they break the lines and forward it goes. With us, it's just like side back, hoof it to Paulo or Doggy, who just puts a speculative ball into the box. Brilliant. That's not entertaining football. I don't understand where this is coming from. It's baffling. And the other thing is, what I was thinking of is that we've had the regime change. You can't blame it on Levy anymore. He's not there. Cullen's not there. So who do you? I mean, and I turned on to 5 Live this morning, and they said, and after the break, blah blah blah, we'll be discussing Tottenham. And do you know what they said, guys? Are Tottenham unmanageable? And I thought, well, there you go. What a thing to say about our club. That was the headline. We'll be discussing Tottenham. Are Tottenham unmanageable? And I thought, wow, that's where we are.
I think the next 2 months are going to be a huge, what's the word? Opportunity for the club in terms of the manager. We're going to see what's not only going to happen now in the meantime, but this is going to happen over the next 4 or 5 years by the recruitment that we do in this January transfer window, and if we do keep this manager, the owners who haven't changed, it's just a new person that's been put in front of us.
Yeah.
If they are true to their word and they want to back us and see this club compete on all fronts, we have to see some intent in January. If we don't, this is the same Enoch that we've been calling to get out for the last 5 or 6 years, then there's no change.
But at the same time, like I said to Matt a minute ago, we need to see progression, even if it is small steps in games. And you need to see positivity in these games because, this week you could say, Arsenal, very good side, miles away from us at the moment in terms of quality and depth. PSG, of course, the Champions League winners. I feel like those 2 games, you can kind of say, yeah, okay, we're miles away from them. But when you've got Fulham at home, and like we discussed yesterday, Darren, hadn't won a Premier League game away from home, and then of course, they drew 1, lost 5, come to Tottenham, and it just seems like you said, Gary, Christmas presents come early, and there you go, there's the 3 points. This cannot keep happening.
Chris, let's not forget, we weren't playing a good team. We've played good teams. We've played Chelsea. We've played Arsenal. We've played PSG. They were there for the taking yesterday. And I've got to be honest, they didn't look great yesterday. Bang average, absolutely bang average. And we lost to them.
We were very lucky. Yeah, we were very lucky not being 3-0 down after 11 minutes. And then, of course, we were lucky that we didn't concede again with Van der Ven making that great tackle. So it could have been a lot worse. But, yeah, I do take some positives from yesterday. It was a better second-half performance, but you should never, ever be in that position at your home stadium where we have lost so many games. The last win at home in the Premier League 3.5 months ago, that is not what the Spurs fan base expect. No way. Whether it will change, whether it will dramatically change when Thomas Frank does get his players back in terms of the attacking intent of Kulusevski, Maddison and Dominic Solanke, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, these results and performances particularly cannot continue the way that we are going, because we're going to be going down that league table rapid. So
I'm concerned that the players have lost faith in him. That's because if we're scratching our heads to work out systems and formations and team selections, God knows what the players must be thinking.
Yeah,
I think it's a leadership issue. I think it's a big leadership issue.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, listen, I've got to thank you so much for having me on, mate.
Thanks,
sorry.
Darren.
I mean, if you want to see my Christmas tree, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, you can just move on to the next guy.
Happy Christmas. See you soon.
Lots of love. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers. Right. Joining us for the first time is Dave from New Zealand. Dave, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. Trying to keep it positive, as you guys are. But it's, in all honesty, I feel pretty privileged being in New Zealand. I feel like I'm in a unique situation where I'm not probably surrounded by a whole lot of Premier League fans, and especially not Spurs fans. But since many years ago, I've always stuck with Spurs and I've loved them as a club. But these are pretty hard times, right?
Well, Dave, how are you feeling about this season and Thomas Frank? Because, as I said earlier, at the start of the campaign, all of us felt pretty positive about the appointment of Thomas Frank. We know that he gets the best out of players. We've seen him do, work wonders at Brentford for many years, particularly the last 4 in the Premier League. They looked at a really decent outfit, always gave a good account of themselves and beat some, the top teams in the Premier League. Will it work out for Thomas Frank, do you think?
At this stage, I mean, the squad he's working with obviously makes it pretty tough. But I mean, we can't expect a miracle to happen once Solanke and Kulusevski come back. I mean, Maddison's kind of been in and out with injuries, but I don't think that's an instant fix. We can't just be holding on for those 2 players, at least those 2 players to come back. I think the problem we've got, there was a lot of positivity about Frank coming in and how he developed the young players, like you touched on earlier. But I don't know if he knows how to do that. He hasn't proven it. I saw so many opportunities in the last few games where before Bergvall got injured, got his concussion, obviously started against Chelsea, but before that, he wasn't starting him. And I just think he's the only proven midfielder that has that creativity for us at the moment, it feels like. And he's got such a great future. But if we're going to develop these young players, which we have so many of, and he's one that's actually got some tenacity and some commitment, and he's just got, he's got good vision. He's going to unlock some doors, but I don't see any other players being unlock doors. And my biggest concern is Ange had a plan. Okay, he only had one plan, but I just feel like Frank hasn't got a plan at all. You can look back on his selection process, his chipping and changing, like you guys have talked about and other fans that have come on here have. And that's a bad sign. So many teams that start playing well, including Brentford, he always had the same starting front line. Had Visser and then Burmo, easy go-tos, right? But he's just he has no idea who he's playing, and even his substitutions, I just felt his timing of substitutions even earlier on in the season, when in the crisis point we're in now, we're still questionable. I just feel like. But we can't blame the manager, as has been proven over the last few years. It's not been the answer, right? Changing manager. Ange gave us what we wanted. It was attacking. It was brilliant to watch. Okay, he could have sharpened up the defence, but we conceded a lot of goals. But at least we put smiles on faces of Spurs fans, and I think that's just all been erased. There's just nothing going on at the moment. There's so much to talk about, and there's so much spinning around in my head. But it's just trying to get across all the most important parts at the moment. But does he quit before he's pushed? It's almost that, the pressure. He's a mid-table manager. He's not proven at any high level with any high club, successful clubs, let alone. No. He chews gum so much. I just feel like he's just lacks that real drive and anger and aggression and real passion. I need to mongrel, and I don't know. I just sensed there was a real connection between the players when he first arrived. There was a lot of hugs and stuff, embracing on the field straight after games. Okay, it's easy to have that when you win the game, but it just feels like there's a real absence and just lack of presence and connection between the players and them. And I'd love to hop on that change room and just see what that vibe's like. I know losing does bring that down, but is there more to it than what we see from the screens?
Yeah.
I was going to say, Dave, that sorry, Gary. I was going to say just very quickly that these last couple of games, particularly the Fulham game on Saturday, is more Thomas Frank approaching the players for handshakes rather than the players approaching Thomas Frank. I completely agree with that.
Totally. Yeah. No, there just seems a disconnect. I've got a good mate who's a Spurs fan in New Zealand. We're messaging frantically about pre-game, post-game, and predictions, and we're going through in Fulham I had down as a draw a week ago. I put the rest of the fixtures up until Christmas, and I've got one win out of the next 6, and it was including Fulham, and Fulham was a draw I had picked. I got no doubt we'll lose to Newcastle because we've had a bad run up there. They always pump us. They just the speed in which they hit us, and that's even without who's the left winger that he didn't start on the weekend. That they've got quite a good bench, but yeah, I just see
Gordon
don't even need him. They got Jacob Murphy. They got some good players that haven't been starting, and they don't even need those to beat us at the moment. I just think Brentford, we might get a win at home. Forest obviously improving, and at home I think they'll beat us. Liverpool will probably beat us at their house. Palace away, I mean, no chance. I just don't see any chance. But fixtures look good from January through to the end of January. But what's going to happen between now and then? Have we got Curly back? He's kind of telling a few porkies when he says, "Oh, Curly's almost back, Solanke's almost back," and then suddenly weeks pass. I'm like, what's actually really going on with these players? How fit are they?
Yeah, and he's saying as well, these players are coming back, and then he's being asked for timescales, and now he's changing it to, I will tell you, it's probably better if I just tell you who's available. So again, it's like doubling down. But you made a really good point a minute ago, Dave, with Ange. He had a particular style. Okay, it was one style, and he wouldn't change that. Now, I've got no doubt that Thomas Frank has a style, which we saw at Brentford. He's come in though, and he's wanting to be overly adaptable where Ange wasn't adaptable, and he's been too adaptable. And I think have we gone from one scale all the way to the other too much that these players are struggling to understand what they need to be doing?
Yeah, I think so. And there's obviously probably quite a lot of chat about we need to shore up our defense after last season, right? And then he's got this real pivot, the whole pivot with Palhinha and Bentancur, and I think it maybe worked initially, but I just, that's taken all that creativity and go forward out. So he's gone the opposite way, but now he's thinking second thoughts on that because he's changed that in the last couple of games. So I'm like, I don't know, feel like he's a little bit lost.
Yes. I think he's lost. I was very much positive on the defensiveness and how strong we were defensively, especially in set pieces. Now we're starting to concede goals at set pieces. Now we're not scoring goals at set pieces. And these are all things that initially brought in that we were really struggling with under Ange. And now we're starting to creep back into struggling under him. I don't know if it's clearly a player thing, but like you say, maybe he's sort of going, well, we've worked on that. Let's try and work on this bit. And he's just not getting that balance right at the moment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And one question I've got is like the decision about Spence. Why start against PSG? For me, I would have said, like you would agree that PSG game's a free hit. We're expected to lose. Why did he start Spence in that and not start him against Fulham? He's probably our top 3 players this season. I really rate Spence on the ball and off the ball. He's got speed. He's quite. It's quite. I think people underrate how good he is. Like he's definitely one of the players that has got a future. But I just see, so I just don't know why he wasn't start. He didn't start. I think Paulo struggled.
Yeah, I think for me I think the reason why he may not have started is that the balance issue that we're having on the left-hand side, because he's traditionally been playing on the left, and he obviously really does like and rate Pedro Porro. If we'd have played Spence out there, I'd have been happy with. But for me, my opinion being with Spence on the left, and a number of times against PSG, he was getting to the edge of the box and he was trying to cross it with the outside of his right foot because he's not comfortable on his left. Or what he was then doing, he was then cutting back on himself, and then we were recycling through a double pivot, which delays the play of the strikers. When you're set as a striker, you're waiting for a ball to come in on the left, and then it's not coming, and then you've got to try and get yourself set again and get in front of your defender. It takes time. And I think that having that imbalance issue is what's the reason why he didn't start. However, I thought he would probably have been better on the right because Pedro Porro is definitely struggling at the moment.
That's where that's immediate change I'd make. When Spence was first played, he was played on the right before he went across the left, and I just think that's where his future is. I mean, look, Curlew had that same problem with his chipping inside, didn't he? Because he likes his left foot. What happens when he comes in, what position he plays with Curtis on the right, this is going to be interesting as well. But at the moment,
left for me all day long, I'd put him on the left-hand side.
Yeah, totally. Just use it because that's where a lot of the teams are having success. It's just getting whipping crosses and but we just seen so many of our crosses are just floated, and the keepers just got it all day. It's just you don't see Arsenal crossing like that. If they are, they put pace on it. And they've got players in the box. But my biggest concern probably is just the number of players we've got that they say young and they've got potential, but I'm not sure how much potential they have. And the likes of Tel, Odebear. I mean, Xavi's too early to call because I think Beard put other players around him that can cause problems. He may, he feels like he does well when at the 60th minute, once the game opens up a bit and he's got a bit more space. But as Chelsea and Arsenal, especially Chelsea, they gave him no time on the ball, and he was like a possum in headlights, and he needs to come to grips with that. But it just seems like we've just got so many young players that, and maybe that's why Frank's struggling with his selection, because he's feels one gets an opportunity, they don't succeed, and he pulls them out, tries another one. That's what I think. Bergvall just needs to keep starting. I just think. He's a banker. He's got so much future, and he's just got so much energy.
Dave, last question for you. In May, where will Spurs be in the Premier League table at the end of the season?
I honestly don't see us at this stage being in the top half, but I don't know if it'll be as bad as 17th, especially if we get Curlew comes back and he suddenly finds some sort of formation. But come May, I see us somewhere between 10th and 12th at the moment, but just don't know. It's a bit of a crystal ball one. At the moment, though, this is just our home form. I just can't believe that. We should be from the first, those conceding those 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. We should be the team that comes out firing. We should be on all cylinders, turbo boosting off the blocks, and at first whistle, and especially when you're at home. I just letting the other teams come at us. Yeah, if I could make an immediate swap, I'd get Ange back in. That would be just give us go forward. I don't know, even if we are losing 4-3.
Yeah, do you know what? I've seen a fair few people say this online about Ange Postecoglou, and it's funny because some people have even said that they wanted Ange gone. They've turned around now and said no, we should never have sacked him, and they actually wish that he was back at the football club for season 3. It's quite incredible how like you said, Gary, how the fans are so mixed with different opinions.
And it's weird because I was very sort of pro him leaving. I thought that there was no progression under him. When we won the Europa League, I thought we can't let him go. He's done what he's been brought here to do, even though I'm not fully behind and supportive. And even today, before the game yesterday, there was a viral video that went out of him wishing, I think it was a Sunday League team good luck, and he ends it with saying, "Come on, you Spurs." And I watched that and thought, what have we done? What have we done?
If you put it to vote now and asked how many fans are all vying for his blood, and said, no, we need to change him, fans are just too quick to jump on the manager being the problem. The manager's
it'll be split still. I still think it would be very split, but I think that the split is turning more towards him them wanting him. And I think what it is just that we need, as a human race, we need something to blame. And we have to look at something, and it traditionally comes down to the manager or the owner. And now the owners or the owner, or the chairman has left. We've got to look for something, and it's like, oh, hang on a minute, we won something under this guy. Why did we let him go? Even though really it was the right thing to do. It's just human nature.
Yep.
I think Dave, the players, like if you look at the last 5 years, the recruitment of the players, I put them all into categories of poor or unproven, good and great players. And the number of poor and unproven players that we've signed in the last 5 years, and I've compared it to Arsenal's recruitment, it's just we can't blame the manager at this stage, Frank. You've got to give him 4 transfer windows. I feel he needs the club to back him and actually buy players that are proven, not all these players that are like got potential or done well in other leagues. Because we've seen so many players, including Witzer, like have not been able to cope with the Premier League. Goes to show the German league's a different beast, right?
Yeah.
It's just I just think it's the players, it's the recruitment. We've got to rebuild. I mean, we've got to get players out, and then it's just the nature of the game, isn't it? Manager is not the answer at this stage. I don't think. There's no point getting rid of Frank at the moment. I think it's 100% on the players. It's the quality of players. We don't have them. We don't have Bales. We don't have all those stars that have given us Champions League qualification over those years. They're the ones that have carried us. We don't have any standout players in the team other than like Van der Ven, but he's at the back. So, yeah, it's going to be a hard ride. We're going to see out the storm. Keep it positive somehow.
Dave, I can tell you've got so much to say about Spurs. We're going to have to get you on a edition of the Spurs Chat podcast after a game or a preview show. So we'll definitely be in touch for that if you're up for it. But thanks so much for joining us.
100%. I love Spurs, and we can only stay positive and just keep fighting. We'll be fine.
Yes.
Cheers, Dave. We'll speak to you soon.
All right. See you guys.
Cheers. Right, we're now going to go to Paulo. Paulo has been waiting very patiently. Paulo, sorry for keeping you waiting. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. And I'm optimistic. I think we've got positives, and I think we're going to have a load of money coming in, either through our current owners or possibly being sold. We've got some great young talent there, as long as we look after them. But at the moment, it feels really bad. I think the losses to Chelsea and Arsenal have really hurt. And the manner of the losses was shocking. And that's got to be down to the inspirational leadership, isn't it, of Thomas, which is very lacking. You can't get away from those 2 defeats. We set 2 records there. One was the lowest XG in Premier League history against Chelsea, and then we smashed that against Arsenal.
Yeah, I can only laugh, and I feel bad. I can only laugh at that because it's just so shocking that we are doing that. I know.
And you can't forgive the players or the team or anything for that, so we've got a right to boo them. I don't think we should boo players. I know Vinny Samways years ago, we destroyed him by booing him, and he was actually a talented player. So we shouldn't do that. I mean, how did Vicario feel when the fans were booing him? He fucked up. He made a mistake. I make mistakes at work, not at that level, but everybody makes mistakes, and we destroyed him. So I don't think we should have done that. But we've got to try and find our way out of this mess. It feels bad, but we can't lose to Chelsea and Arsenal like that again, surely. That's just crazy.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. We can't lose in that manner. But where are these points coming from? As other guests have said on here, and I echo, Newcastle away is real difficult. Brentford at home is going to be very difficult. Where are the results coming from? Because we are slowly slipping down that league. We're only a few points off of 17th again, and then the the argument is going to be, why did we make that change? Because we're in no better position.
Well, we're not. And what we're in danger of doing as well is we're destroying the players' confidence. I remember Destiny Doggy, when we bought him and he was on loan in Italy for a year, he was a superstar. Joined us and he was a superstar on the left. He's not a superstar now, is he? He's an average left back. He's not fantastic. So that's what we're in danger of doing the longer this continues. And I'm not saying, and I don't think we should get rid of Thomas Frank. You can't keep changing managers every 5 minutes. Who is it that said that a Premier League manager needs 5 years to prove himself? Well, Thomas Frank isn't going to get that. They don't do that now in the Premier League. But we can't keep chopping and changing managers. That's not the answer. He needs to adapt and he needs to get a system that works, and it's not doing that. I think you're right. He can't cope with 2 games in a week at the moment.
Yeah,
that's not what he's used to. And I think that's a very valid point. But we need to find a way out of this, and I don't think that's going to happen before January.
Paulo, when we talk about transfer windows, and I think that most of us are on the same page that we've always been 1, 2, 3 players away from really challenging and doing something special. We know that Thomas Frank is not a bad manager. We know that Thomas Frank has got vast Premier League experience. Is it the case of that he does need these transfer windows in order to get the players that he wants in to fit his system? But what I also said earlier, you've got to see signs. You've got to see certain things, certain signs in games of progression. Have you seen enough from a Thomas Frank Tottenham Hotspur side? I know we're only 13 Premier League games in, but there are a lot of doubters at the moment.
Yeah, what went wrong? That game against PSG in the Super Cup final, we looked really good. And I thought, well, this is the champions of Europe, and we've performed really well. And I was really optimistic for the coming season. I thought we was going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
But the wheels have come off, haven't they? Why have the wheels come off? What's happened there? Why are we not doing what we could? He's not like Ange. He's an adaptive manager. And I believe that he could change tactically in a game when things weren't working. Ange couldn't do that. So I don't know, but I don't see anything changing before January.
Paulo, do you think that he's got too much adaptability? I know it sounds quite strange. Is there too much there where he believes he can keep changing, and perhaps it's getting confusing? The message isn't getting across at the moment.
Yeah, and let me add to that, because that system and the way that we went to the Emirates Stadium, and then just 3 days later, the way that we played at PSG, that was like a chalk and cheese setup of, you go to the Emirates, then you go to PSG, and you play completely differently. It couldn't have been any more different.
Well, I think he needed, after the Arsenal game, he needed to make a statement, didn't he? And that was what he was trying to do against PSG. And to be fair, we looked okay for the opening 20 minutes. We didn't against Arsenal. The tactics against Arsenal were just completely wrong. And yeah, no, I think I think he was scared in the Arsenal game, which you can't afford to be. And he's naive still, I think. I still think there's a naivety to him. He was Brentford manager, did wonders at Brentford. Is he right for Tottenham? I don't know.
Yeah,
honestly,
there's a big difference between Tottenham and Brentford, and that's not me being disrespectful, but there is not midweek games at Brentford. He's got time at Brentford. He's got people above him that he's obviously very, very friendly with. They believe in a certain way of developing their club. Their alignment at Brentford is straight as an arrow. Ours is a zigzag. And I think that he's automatically come in here and gone, right, I need to shore up some things that were the problems last season. I need to focus on them. And he's kind of lost that little bit of to dare is to do attitude that perhaps he was succeeding with at Brentford.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a change in attitude at the club before Daniel left in our transfer policy. We were going up. We didn't get them. We didn't get Eze and we didn't get Gibbs White and, but there was a definite change in attitude towards getting in quality players, and Xavi Simons is a quality player. And I think that'll continue. I think there are a few more players that we went after and didn't get that weren't reported on. So I do think we will recruit better going forward. That's a positive. But is Thomas the man to bring? I don't know. I
thought you were optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, I am optimistic because if Thomas he's not, but that I'm talking a long way in the future. Because if Thomas doesn't do it, they'll get rid of him and get someone in that does.
Well, last question for you, Paulo. How do you see this next week going? Because it would be a silly question for me to say, what do we need to do? We need 2 wins. We need 2 decent performances.
Well,
what can you see happening this week?
Well, we're not gonna get that against Newcastle. They're flying at the moment. They're really good, and we've got no confidence. We need to get something. We need a 1-1 draw to start getting the confidence back, don't we? That's what we need to do. That's not going to happen against Newcastle. At Brentford, it might do, but yeah, I don't see anything changing for a couple of weeks. January's when we need to start performing. And an interesting thing was it was Bergvall and Gray that were getting the crowd going on Saturday. Two teenagers. Where was Romero? I know he was injured, but Van der Ven wasn't cheering everybody up, was he? Nobody was. They weren't playing for the shirt.
Yeah.
There's a leadership issue.
There is a leadership issue. Yeah, there's nobody. I mean, you can't go to Arsenal and play like that. What are the players thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Paulo, go on.
Yeah. All I was going to say was I remember having a conversation with Gary Brook a few years ago, and we was talking about Arsenal Spurs games, and they were do or die games. You played to death. There was none of that when we played Arsenal recently. Yeah,
that was sad to see. I must say it was a terrible performance, never to be repeated, hopefully. Paulo, you've been a great guest. We'd love to have you back on again very soon. So do look out for another fan show. We'd love to have you back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you. Right. Gary, let me just ask you, and we're going to go to Mams next. Mams has been waiting for a long time. Then we're going to go to Des. Then we've got Steve and Linton. So it won't be long, guys. Thank you so much for your patience. Gary, let me ask you very quickly about the January transfer window. Yeah. Do you see us operating in a different way? Do you see the club having more ambition? Because we've heard a number of times that the Lewis family have come out and said they're Spurs fans. They want to see us win trophies on a consistent basis and really compete. Do you see us doing things in a different way? I
hope we do. And now, do I see us doing it? I'm not 100% sure. Reason being is we had a lot of talk in the summer. We had talk as after Levy went. That talk has slowed down now. We haven't seen much come out recently. However, if we don't, this is the same Enoch that has been in charge for 20 years. They can't all of a sudden come out and say we're big Tottenham fans. Okay, well, what have you been doing for the last 15 years that we've been dying for this sort of investment in the club? We don't have an ownership group that will throw money around to get us out of the position that we're in. Arsenal do, Chelsea do, Man City do, Manchester United, who finished just above us last season and are currently 7th, 8th. There's other clubs. Newcastle trying, Aston Villa have tried. We don't have a ownership group that has traditionally gone, okay, you need £100 million player, let's go and get him. Let's go and get that superstar that previous guests have talked about that we don't have anymore. That if they do that in January, this is a different ownership group. This is a different mentality that they're having. If we don't, it's the same. Head is saying no. Heart is praying yes. And it's 50-50 as we are on even the majority of things at the moment.
Like I mentioned earlier, Gary, the fact that our captain at the time, Heung-min Son, left, having won the Europa League with Spurs, left for LAFC, and we're now really missing a player on the left-hand side. Antoine Semenyo, we know that he's got a release clause now. It could be as simple as going to Bournemouth and saying, look, here's the money. Do you think Spurs could get that one done?
I would like them to get it done, but I think a lot of other clubs within the Premier League probably want him as well. However, if it is the 65 million that's being reported, we're in December, let's just say. We should be looking on their deal now and saying, we're coming. We're just giving you notice now, we're coming.
Yeah.
And on January the 1st, they should be walking into, however they do these transfers of paying out contracts. They should be going wherever it is and saying, right, we want him. He's up. We want to take him, and then it's up to the player. That's the intent. We should be planning right now. This minute, we should be looking. Me and you can see the glaring, obvious problems within our team. We go to the stadium all the time. I can see it from the minute we start lining up where those issues are. These people live and breathe and are paid very, very well for that as well. They should know where we need to improve, and they should go out straight away in January and show that intent. If that intent isn't there, it's just the same ownership group we've had. There's nothing. It's just all words.
Gary, before we go to our next guest, Nomad says here, and I was asked this question on TalkSport the other day as well, on an interview, when I said exactly that about bringing Antoine Semenyo in January, and the same comment here. Why would he come to Spurs?
This is it. I mean, I said earlier on a little stream that I did, I was talking about players coming in, and then I said something that's actually said on it. It's like, well, what have we got to offer them at the moment? We've got a lovely stadium and a nice training ground. Okay, players want to win. They go places to win. Most of them want to win a trophy or get paid well. It's a job for most of them, right? What can we offer at this stage? We're broken. We're, as a fan base, we're so split. We're so divided. We don't know if we want Thomas Frank. We're not sure on Thomas Frank. Some of us want him. Some of us want Ange. Some of us want Pochettino. Some of us want Javi Hernandez from Barcelona. It's just so broken. It is. But at the beginning of the season, when Christian Romero signed that contract, I said on this show, oh my God, that's a new signing. That is showing people around the world that this is the place to be. And we are 5 months later. And now I'm thinking, what have we really got to offer? Because we don't have an identity at the moment on that football pitch.
Yeah, and at the fans forum at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, what was it, a month or so ago, Vino Venkatesham come out and said that was the best bit of business that a European club did in the summer transfer window by Romero signing that contract. Now, let's go to our remaining guest. Mams has been waiting a very long time. Mams, thank you so much for staying with us. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
Frustrated, but more frustrated, I think, with our fans that booed Vic yesterday. I didn't like that one bit. I did not like that one bit. And I don't know if you saw what Michael Dawson said. I mean, once your goalkeeper goes walkabout like he did, a defender should go on the line, yes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody went back.
Yeah.
Nobody went back on the line. And this is so frustrating for me to see.
And that's the basics. That's basics.
Exactly.
Basics. Yeah.
Someone there's no way he would have scored if one of our players went on the line. Romero would have been on the line straight away once Vic goes walkabout. Keepers go walkabout all the time. I didn't like that one bit. And the first point that I wanted to make was just about that. I didn't like that one bit, and I'm fully behind Vic. You know, I know he makes a few mistakes and stuff, but he saved us loads, and I really didn't like that last night. I really didn't.
No, I agree with you as well. And you look at his and like Chris said, his basic day one errors. You know, that's a 10-year-old knowing. You could go to any park team now and know that you're in trouble. You knock it out. Maybe those defenders thought, look, he's a yard from the touchline, he's going to kick it out. But you can't take those risks in the Premier League because you'll get punished. And equally, we're just conceded, so you've got to make extra sure that what we're doing is tight as we can be. Again, defensively, where we were very strong towards the beginning of the season, is now really slipping us. 11 goals we've conceded in a week.
Yeah, definitely. But this goes back to Frank. Do you guys think he knows his best team?
Personally, no. I think he's struggling to nail down not only his first 11, but a system that he can fit those 11 players into.
He doesn't.
No.
I don't think there's any doubt, Mams, that Thomas Frank needs a much better squad. He needs much better players. But like I keep going back to, you've got to see you've got to see signs of improvement. If you've got players that are trying their very best, then you can accept that as a Spurs fan, because when you go back to Spurs of the 90s, some of these players that with the deepest respect, they weren't very good. But when you saw that they were giving absolutely everything, that's all Spurs fans want to see. Play for the badge, give absolutely everything. We've got to see improvement. How much improvement have you seen of certain players and in games under Thomas Frank? Are you a Thomas Frank fan right now?
I'm definitely not Thomas out, 100%. I think he deserves time. Obviously, other teams give their managers times, everything, and I'm fed up with chopping and changing. But this is not his squad. It's not his team. There's players there that probably are not good enough, and he probably knows that. But he's not going to come out and ridicule them in the press. So he's got to make do with what he's got. But my expectation, Chris, I've been watching you for a long time, and you said earlier on tonight that your expectations were high this season. Mine weren't. I think we could have done without Champions League this year. I think it would have done Thomas Frank a big favour if we wasn't in it.
But that's surely on the club, though, isn't it? Because winning the Europa League trophy, that should have been a springboard for competing on all fronts. Even Daniel Levy, when he was still chairman at the start of this season, said we want to be competing on all fronts. If you want to be competing on all fronts, you need to go bigger in the transfer windows, because we know that whatever we do, the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, etc., are going to do a lot more and spend a lot more money. So you need to go big. If we want to be ambitious, you need to do a lot more in the transfer windows, not always being short. And we've said this under so many different managers over so many different years. I feel like a little bit of a broken record, because, recording these podcasts year in, year out under different managers, I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm saying the same thing again.
Yeah, definitely. But if we go with the Poch blueprint of how much time he had and the team he built, then surely Frank is going to need more than one summer transfer window to try and get his team together. Yeah,
it's going to take time. It will take time. I think Thomas has come in and already has got a fractured fan base, because half of it didn't want to see the manager go. So he's already at a disadvantage. He's then coming in as well with some players that are, to be all respect to them, aren't good enough to be at the football club, that we can't get out the door. And equally, he's then lost the chairman as well, and he's trying to build a squad, and he's also coming into a team where, as a manager, where he's not had to do Wednesday to Saturday or Wednesday to Sunday games. He's only ever had to do one a week, and so he's took on a big challenge here, and we do need to give him some slack and some encouragement.
Yeah, massive challenge for him. And when he was playing Bentancur and Paulina in front of the back four, okay, it wasn't great to watch, and it was maybe a little bit boring, but we was hard to beat. And that was the first thing he had to do coming through the door, is stop the goals going in. I don't think we're going to lose 22 league games this year. We won't lose 22 league games, and I don't think we'll let in, just over maybe half of the goals we let in. I can't remember how many goals we let in last season. So 65. If we do that, 65, I don't think we're going to let in half, maybe a bit over half of that. Because I think,
Mams, what's your expectations? You said that you thought that we weren't going to do that great this season at the start of the season. What are your expectations, and have your expectations actually lowered in the last couple of months?
The last few games, the last week.
Yeah.
I say top 10 and a couple of good cup runs, because we're going to have January window. Obviously, that'll help him a little bit more. So hopefully we can get a few more points after January. But top 10 and a couple of good cup runs, I think, for first season going in like he has after Ange. If people think we were going to get top 4 and win a cup straight away with Frank, the way the team was played last year in the league, no chance. No chance. Sorry.
Gary, let me ask you, right? So everyone goes on about we finished 17th in the Premier League last season. Yes, we won the Europa League. Everyone goes on about those 22 league defeats. Does it make it easier in some ways for Thomas Frank for him to come out and say, because he has actually come out and said this in a press conference or two already, he said, you've got to remember last year we finished 17th. You know, he wasn't at the football club, but he's still come out and said, we finished 17th. And I didn't like that comment because as a fan, I just felt like he was kind of saying, well, if I finish 16th or above, then we've improved on last season.
No, I get where he's going with it, and I think again he's trying to deflect blame. He deflected blame last night with just going for the fan base. He didn't have to. He could have come out and just said, "Look, I appreciate there was a big error on that second goal. I think the fans just need to be getting behind him. Wasn't too happy with the booing. But let's get behind." Again, he's deflecting the blame for a poor performance onto the fan base, and he's now deflecting the blame. Well, actually, we're not playing very well, but remember, we finished 17th last season. To be honest with you, Thomas, we're all very aware of where we finished last season and how bad it was.
Very.
We're extremely aware of that. We don't need to be reminded of that. What we need to see is improvement on that football pitch. I pay 80 to three numbers, because I won't say it too loud because my wife might be around, of what sometimes we do pay to go and watch that football team play.
How much?
Can be a little bit expensive here and there. And I want to see progression on that football pitch. I'm not asking to be top four. I said on this at the beginning of the season, you asked me a question, what would I like to see? I want a top 8 finish, and I'd like to see us win the Carabao or the FA Cup. We're out of the Carabao Cup. I'd like to see us either win something or go for it. Have a bit of bite about us, but see progression. And at the minute, are we seeing that progression? You can't keep saying, well, I'm not good looking, but David Beckham is good looking, so it's his fault that I'm not good. You know what I mean? It's like we're deflecting blame on something that makes no sense in relevance right now. You're our manager. We're very aware of where we were last season. Now go and change it. That's what you're being paid several £1 million to do. And we will back you until the dying seconds. We will back you, but do not throw your fan base under the bus, because this fan base won't stand for it and they will come for you. And unfortunately, he's probably woke up this morning, and if he does have social media, he's probably gone, okay, there's a lot of people that have come for me here.
Yeah, Mams.
Away from home.
Mams, on that point, you know, he said in the last press conference that he doesn't look at any reports. He doesn't look at social media at all. You know, Ange said this, but I think that was very different. I think Ange did have a sneaky eye on social media a lot of the time, particularly what he said in press conferences. But with that, does it make it easier that we did finish 17th? Because if we do finish, you know, 10th, 12th, whatever, is that acceptable for him to come in and then say, well, we finished 17th last year, so this is an improvement? And also what I wanted to ask is, do you feel like the board perhaps kind of accepted to say to Thomas Frank, well, there's no expectations, you just, you know, progress this team, get the best out of certain players. Yeah, we'll try and give you whatever we can in the transfer windows, but don't worry, no pressure is on you this season. Because, you know, all of us as Spurs fans, we always expect European football. Daniel Levy, as the chairman over, you know, all these years, always expected European football. League position was very, very important to the football club. Does Thomas Frank somehow have a bit of a free pass this season, would you say?
Good question, Chris. But the 17th comment is definitely a way out of giving him like a little bit more time, maybe. But if the board have said that to him, then, you know, who knows what's going to happen after January? We don't know. I mean, we haven't been really good in January transfer windows. I don't know how much they're going to give him. I don't know how many good players are we going to sign. Who's going to come back? Are we going to be totally different for the second half of the season? I hope so. Oh God, I hope so. But it's just, you know, if he doesn't finish that, is he going to be under pressure? But then the second season, is it right? We've got to finish in the top 8. We have to.
My response to that, Chris, is that we had the ownership group and the people in charge come out and say we need to be challenging on all fronts, and that's the reason why we sacked our manager. So my answer to that is yes, Thomas Frank needs to be doing those things. I don't think he's got a pass because the ownership group have come out and said so, and they've made it abundantly clear. Because I don't think any Spurs fan has sat before the start of the season and said we need to be competing on all fronts. We all just want to see progression. They've come out and said that, and now they've put Thomas in a very difficult situation, which he's now trying to deflect back. Hang on a minute, guys, we finished 17th here. Oh, no. The owners have said we need to be competing on everything, so we're expecting that from you.
Yeah.
So he's been put in a bit of a difficult situation as well.
Yeah. Well, he said we finished 17th, and he's also come out and said on a number of occasions that we can't fight on all fronts because we don't have the squad right now. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially in that January window. I know January windows are very hard, and that is no excuse at all for what the football club does or doesn't do. But the summer window for me is the real, test of how far we want to progress as a football club and what ambition we want to show. Mams, thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for being patient. And hopefully we can talk to you again soon.
All right, Chris. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Gary.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Right, Gary, we do have a few more guests left. I hope you're all right for time. Let's go to Des. Des, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
Evening, Chris. Evening, Gary.
Hello, mate.
Don't know. It's hard to know how to feel. Really, I'm not pessimistic, but I'm not overly optimistic. So I'm kind of stuck in the middle. I think, like many Spurs fans, trying to work out the huge dip in mentality is unbelievable since winning that Europa League final where players in what was a dreadful game gave everything. When you think of Mickey, that ball he turned over the crossbar stopped it from going in, and yet last night, he was caught in no man's land. It's just it's hard to fathom. I think a few people have said about, we should have been pushing on, we should have been progressing, and we haven't done that. And in terms of Thomas Frank, Thomas Frank came into the club and he knew fine well that we had finished 17th. He knew the money that he was taking to take a contract. So there's no point sitting 6 months down the line now moaning about the squad and moaning about the players, because my honest opinion, I'm not a Frank out because I think he does need to be given time, but my honest opinion is that the players are not buying into him. I think a lot of the players, humans like the rest of, I think a lot of the players felt let down when Ange was sacked in the way he was sacked after winning the Europa League. Fair enough, if we had lost that final, 22 defeats was pretty disgraceful, to be honest, but we all know the reasons why the last 8 or 9 of those defeats happened. We knew that sacrifices had to be made. We accepted that. And I just think the players are still, I think they probably still crave having Ange in the dressing room, and probably there is a bit of disrespect towards it. There seems to be, you've seen it so many times this season with players refusing to shake hands, players walking off. So you cannot say that that's a harmonious squad and that they have 100% faith in Thomas Frank. That's my concern.
Yeah. In 2019, when we was in the Champions League final, we had the option to kick on as a football club and invest, and we didn't, and then we started regressing. Yes, and then again at the Europa League final, we had the same situation. We say same opportunity to invest and kick on as a football club, and we're slightly regressing again. Is it a recruitment issue, an ownership issue, or a combination of both, do you think, Des?
I think, the squad that we have, it's comparable. It's okay. You got the Arsenals. They went out and spent a lot of money. The Chelseas, the Liverpools, they have that money to spend. But we're probably, in terms of what Newcastle can spend under the fair play, the financial restrictions that they have, what they're allowed to spend. I don't think our squad's any better or any worse than theirs. I think we have some really good players. I just think some of them, the mentality isn't right. I think some of them just don't buy into what it is that the club want. What do the club want? Do the club want to be mid-table? Do they want to push on from last season? Do they want to progress? And I think it's seeping through into the fans. I think Chris had texted you on Instagram. You posted something, and I made a comment about to see so many empty seats last night. 89 minutes when there was still a chance of getting back in the game. But if you looked at the way we played, we got back to 2-1. we had 6 or 7 good minutes, and then it just went flat. It went back to just numbskull football, just boring and dull. You know, you can't tell me that Fulham bringing on one player completely closed everything up and changed the game. It didn't. It just, the players just seemed to, after that 6 or 7 minutes, the confidence that they had built up after that goal just seemed to drain from them again, and it stopped. And Thomas Frank was stood there, you know, hands on hips and looking around him, and not seem, you know, didn't seem to know what to do, how to change it, with still half an hour of the game left. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's just hard to fathom what's going on. It really is.
Des, last question for you. When was the last time you were entertained, and when was the last time you watched our beloved Spurs and actually said to yourself, "Wow, that was fantastic"?
I have to be honest, I think the last game of last season, even though we got tanked 4-1, was the atmosphere was just incredible, and no one cared that day. Everybody thought, you know what, we've just won the Europa League, and they're probably going to stick with Ange and give him a chance to see what he does.
No, I mean in terms of actually watching a football match where you were really, not the atmosphere. I'm not talking about the atmosphere. I'm talking about an actual game. An actual game where you've watched it and thought that was absolutely fantastic. A superb performance from Tottenham. I'd love to hear from a lot of the viewers as well, to get their answers on this question. When was the last time you really, really felt great about watching the club play?
Don't ask me, please.
Probably away to Man City. Although I wasn't at that game. We were on holiday at the time, but I remember, you know, watching and thinking it had everything, the way we played, the way we defended. But this season, I mean, you go back to the games. Dreadful against Bournemouth, dreadful against Villarreal, dreadful against Real Villa, dreadful against Wolves, Chelsea, Monaco, and Arsenal, and now last night against Fulham. Let's be honest, shouldn't be struggling. We shouldn't have to be relying on long throws from Danso to try and get back against a team like Fulham, who had picked up 1 point from 6 away games. Dreadful. So yeah, I would say that the City game this season was pretty entertaining. That was about it.
Des, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on again very soon.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Hursty writes here, Chris, you know the answer. I tell you what, these fan shows, they're not about me. It's about you guys. It's about you coming on and telling me what you feel and how you feel. Gary, do you want to answer that, or should we move on?
I mean, Man City was decent. I wasn't blown away. I would probably go back to COVID, Bale, Song, and Kane. Is it against Burnley? They all scored. There was a game there they all scored. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was one game during there that I thought I really enjoyed this, and that was under Mourinho as well. And I can't stand Jose Mourinho. But I think it is a regularity. It goes back to Mauricio Pochettino to me. I just for me, I got him. I bought into everything he was doing. I believed in his style of play. He didn't change, but he was adaptive. But he wasn't overly adaptive. There was progression in there. A lot of times we were blowing teams away as well. I can't really think of much outside of that. This season, I thought Copenhagen game was great because we scored, a good chunk of goals, and it was a decent atmosphere, to be fair, and it was quite nice. And I'd probably say out of all of them for this season is Copenhagen. And also Copenhagen's away support was absolutely outstanding. They were brilliant, and I was right next to them. They were crazy. So from this season, let's say Copenhagen at home.
Yeah. But you're right, Gary. Absolutely right. In terms of on a consistent basis, Pochettino's team delivered, all the time. And when you talk about home records, unbeaten in the last season at White Hart Lane, we've gone from that to what we're getting at the moment. It's very, very different. Very different. Right, now let's go to the Czech Republic and talk to Steve. Steve, thanks for being patient. How are you?
I'm as good as can be, or as well as can be, considering what's been going on with the team.
Steve, how are you feeling about this past week, the 3 defeats, and do you see things getting better?
To be brutally honest, no, I don't. Why would it get better?
I'm asking the questions. I'm not answering them. I'm asking the questions.
I'll tell you what. No, I don't, because of what's been sort of touched upon by a lot of the people and yourselves. Is that a lot of it seems to me like the players are not buying into what Frank's trying to instill in the team. I know these things take time, but the tactics seem, incredibly slow in transition. It's so predictable. And if you think, I think we have the lowest, the lowest stats on through balls, for example, was something like 4, and Arsenal had like 44 or something this season. And all we keep doing is playing it along the back and across, and then play it wide and try a hopeful cross. And what happened against Fulham was, it was somebody thinking out of the box, i.e. Bergvall, not playing that way. A little ball dinked over the top, and obviously Kudus took it really well, but it wasn't part of this boring type of predictable play. So and again, the goal they scored in midweek, the little back heel from Bergvall, was something different. It wasn't this bloody boring sort of tactics across the back three or the back four, whatever system we're playing. So it does seem to me that the players are very disgruntled among themselves. This isn't the first time it's happened, and as a lot of people have alluded to, that we have a split fan base because of one thing and another. And I forget the chap's name now from the TV you had on earlier. He was talking about the Chelsea-Arsenal game. I just watched that as well. And the difference in passion, intensity and desire from both sides in a London derby, even when Chelsea went down to 10 men and they've held Arsenal to 1-1. It was about, obviously they've got some extremely good players, but it was the intensity and desire not to lose, but even trying to win. Chelsea was still attacking with 10 men. That's
they were
how
going all
proud
out,
they
wasn't
are
they,
to
Steve?
play. I
They
mean,
were going
I
all
hate
out.
Chelsea, by the way. I'm not too keen on Arsenal either. That's putting it mildly. But to watch two teams play like that at that level, we are so far off it mentally. It's very, very worrying.
Are you Thomas Frank out or in at the moment, Steve?
I'm not out because of just purely for the fact he should have more time. If I've been a manager in a completely different field and had some bad results and was allowed to turn things around, and I turned it around, but that was a case of a matter of months. I'm just really. I don't like losing, but like everyone's been saying, as long as we play with some desire, we try. That's the thing. It must be galling for people, because I live abroad here. I went to the ground 3 times during the Europa League tournament early this year, but I don't go over. So it must be so galling to pay all that money to sit at home, especially to watch that, let alone go away and watch games and trains and in some cases hotels, because they put the games on at stupid times for poor fans. I'm amazed they've got as many fans as they've still got going to the games, to be honest, because it's a slog.
It can be a slog. It is difficult.
Gary, let me ask you. Steve mentioned the word there, predictable. Funny enough, one of the journalists in the post-match press conference after the Fulham defeat said, "Did that not make you more predictable by playing everything on the right-hand side and not playing a left-sided player?" It did seem that we were really predictable. I even said it in the first half. It was like everything was going out to the right-hand side. If Kudus weren't putting the cross in, then there wasn't much going through the middle, and certainly not on the left-hand side.
No.
Surely we cannot play that way again. And like I've said, throughout this stream so far, when you think about the 3 games that we have played this week, every one of them has been so different in terms of formations, personnel. Can he keep just changing things up all the time? I can't see how this can continue this way.
No. Oh, sorry, you're asking Gary, aren't you? You're telling Gary? Or?
Well, whoever wants to take it.
I agree with you. The issue we've got, I think, here is that he is trying to throw as much. There's a saying, right? Like, you throw as much shit at the ball and see for something to stick. And I think we're at the stage where he's not sure. on what's going on, right? And he's
Yeah.
thinking, and look, we all know Mohamed Kudus is fantastic, but he ran him ragged yesterday. He couldn't even stand towards the end of that game. He was run ragged. He was knackered. But we've got such an inability on that left-hand side. We had Johnson standing there, didn't get on. Tell, Odegaard, Richarlison, Kolo Muani. There's 5 players and Javi Simmons that could all play on that left-hand side. And again, he didn't do it. He focused on one thing. And sometimes I think he's trying to overchange it.
Yeah.
And we talk about Poch a minute ago, where he made changes. Poch made those changes, but they were little tiny
incremental changes. Yeah, exactly.
And he's going from one extreme to the other, and we're struggling with that. And I think the players are struggling. I'm struggling with it as a fan. I can sit and I really analyse football. That's why I sit a little bit higher, so I can see everything. So I can be close, but not too close. I like to analyse everything. I like to know both teams' formations. I like to make tactical ideas in my head. I struggle even to be able to pick what the formations and the reasons behind stuff is. And I worry about the players, because we've gone from such an extreme under to Ange to such a different here. They're not getting it at the moment.
No, the thing is with the transitions, and when it's so predictable and it's so slow, that every team, no matter how, not say how poor they are, but if they're of a lower level side, they can still get 8-9 players behind the ball. And then when the midfielders are getting, or the fullbacks are getting it, they don't have any outball. They're looking for someone, and that's why they keep turning around and playing it back the other way. There's nowhere to play the ball because it's very static, the whole thing. And like I said, the only time it wasn't static was the goal we scored. At least one of the chances we created was letting players bloody create. I'm very worried. I'm very old-fashioned because I'm very old. I prefer, I think sometimes some modern managers, it's too much statistic-based. Like someone alluded to earlier on, he's got his head in his, whether it's his iPad or his flip chart, whatever he's doing. He's not actually bloody watching the game very much, or he doesn't seem to be.
Tactic balls. Yeah.
Tactic board, yeah, that's it. Oh, that's what it is it? He's actually got some tactics, has he? It's a tactic board. Oh, well, maybe it's just blank paper, because I could write these tactics. I don't think the players are buying into it. And because it's so poor, then most of the fan base are not buying into it. And that's why when what happened on Saturday, the 2 early goals, they started to get pretty disgruntled. Going back to Vicario, it's not on anyone's fault. There was lots of people playing. When he's talking about, he talks about percentages, not wanting to shoot from outside the box because blah blah blah. I don't go along with that at all. And if he's talking about things like that, why did Kevin Danso head the ball out every bloody time? Just clear it. He never took it down on his chest, even when he had no one around him. He was heading the ball out to a Fulham player 9 times out of 10. I've watched the game again about 2 hours ago, just so I really enjoyed my Sunday. Just have another look at the tactics and what went on, because it's a very emotional time actually live.
If once wasn't enough, Steve.
No, exactly. I'm a mug for punishment. No, but you know what I mean? So he's doing all this analysis of percentages to try and give us more of a chance, or that, you know what I mean? And then, so to me, the basic thing would be, so why does one of your centre-backs just head the ball aimlessly out when quite a few times he could try and find a Spurs shirt or just take the ball down on his chest and calm it all down? Do you know what I mean? It seems to be conflicting sort of signs to me.
Steve, where are you on one last thing? I've noticed in a lot at the moment that the centre-backs are taking goal kicks. Mickey van der Ven took a number of goal kicks yesterday, and that, in my head, leaves us 15 yards behind the rest of the play. If we lose that header in the middle of the pitch, there's a good 15 yards that we've lost just by our 2 centre-backs taking a goal kick. Where are you on stuff like that? She said you're more old school, a bit like me, I think. That just makes no sense to me.
Oh, thanks. I feel younger already. No, I don't agree with it. He's not very good with his feet, Vicario. I don't want to be bashing Vicario, but he's a great shot stopper. but that's his job, as someone alluded to, not from this channel, but I think it was what's his name from the old Man U guy commentator, Keane. That's his job. That's his job to stop the ball going in the net. A bit harsh, but no, I thought as someone mentioned as well yesterday, when he rushed out of his goal, the first thing you do as a defender, even in a working men's league, is someone goes on the line to cover the goalkeeper. But what I did notice about Vicario, when he slipped and he got up, the ball was still with the other player before he passed it to the chap who scored. And he didn't sprint back to his goal. Have you ever watched that again? He didn't sprint back. He had a sort of little bit of a jog, looked over his shoulder, and he still wasn't like really trying to get back in his goal, which was really weird. But it's just an incidental. I would actually, despite his failings in the last visit to St James's Park, I would like to see Kinski in goal. Not for any other reason than I live in the Czech Republic. No, I think he's better in the air. He's better at crosses. And come Tuesday against Newcastle, they've got a huge aerial threat, as we know. And I just think Vic, that's the worst part of his game, is coming for crosses, set pieces. He doesn't command his area, and I think Kinski would do a better job. Plus, Kinski would give us that extra man who can play with his feet at the back, if you like. He's a bit of a sweeper. He had a very good game. Okay, it was last season in the Carabao Cup against Liverpool when I think it was his debut. Kinski played extremely well, and I do think in that game, because he hadn't played for quite a while, and he got a run in that, he got a go in the Carabao Cup. That incident when he came out to take the cross, where he should have stayed on his line with Walter Marde for Newcastle. I think he was thinking, I better take my chances when I get them as a goalkeeper. You know what I mean? Come out and punch it clear. Whereas if he'd been had a regular run of games, or at least a few more games, he might not have found the necessity to sort of prove himself, if you like. I don't know. But anyway, that's my take on goalkeepers.
Steve, just very quickly, lastly, score prediction for the Newcastle game.
Right, very quickly, yeah. Can I just reminisce? I'll give a bit of positivity on it, shall I?
Sure. When
we played them in that Carabao Cup, the first goal we conceded was when Spence was doing up his boot, and the ref didn't. Well, he had enough time to do it up, and they played a quick corner, whatever, and they scored a header. Then the second goal was the error I've just mentioned, with Kinski coming for a cross he shouldn't have come for, perhaps. But if you remember the number of chances that Richarlison had in that game, I think it was at least 2 or 3 good goal-scoring chances which he didn't put away. And I'm trying to make this sound good. And Sarr had a shot that was brilliantly saved by Ramsdale. It would have been a closer game. They only changed 4 players, Newcastle, for that game, and we changed about 8, for that game. So I think if Kinski plays, we've got a bit more chance. But otherwise, if we turn up like yesterday and the Arsenal game and the Chelsea game, we are going to be on the end of a hiding. So a long-winded answer, 4-1 to Newcastle.
Bloody hell, I didn't expect that.
No,
well,
me neither.
It's getting a bit much now. I can't see us winning. Just add a bit more Christmas cheer. I don't think we'll win any games between now and the end of the year. Before this, I thought, well, at least against Slavia Prague at home, we'd have a bit of a chance. They're the sort of one of the weaker sides in the tournament. I just had a look at their form here. Okay, it's the Czech League. They haven't lost at all this season. They have a plus 23 goal difference, and they're quite well clear of their nearest rivals in the league, which is pretty unusual. So they're not coming. It's not going to be easy even against Slavia Prague. So it's bad times at the moment, but we'll see. Because like we've all been saying, we don't know what team's going to turn up on Tuesday. It might be the team that went midweek last week to Paris, and in that case, we could beat Newcastle.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Chris? By the way, you don't like giving predictions. Neither do I, but I just did. 4-1 Newcastle.
1-1.
1-1. Yeah. Okay. Bergwijn to score.
I can't sit here and say I'm going to take a 5-hour car journey up to Newcastle to get to see us getting a 4-1 defeat.
I obviously don't know. Obviously, I mean, I don't want us to get a 4-1 defeat. I'm just bloody being realistic on the basis of what we've been churned. That was been turned up the last few.
They need to turn up because things do need to change, and I do feel like Thomas Frank would be under severe pressure from the fan base. Whether it would be severe pressure from the football club is another thing, but from the fan base, from that point of view, I think that he will be under severe pressure. So the players do need to perform, and when all these players put out these social media posts, which I'll be honest, I'm not a great fan of. I don't think that the team or the players should be on social media anyway.
No,
I feel like they should
totally agree with you.
leave social media alone. But just give us the reaction on the pitch. Don't worry about these words on social media posts. Just give us the reaction on the pitch. That's what I'd say. But Steve, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, the other point is that I just hope the referee controls the game better, because we got kicked off the park last time by Newcastle. Joe Linton especially. I just watched him against Everton. He's the dirtiest player in the Premier League. I've got a lot of George friends, by the way.
We need to be aggressive. We wasn't aggressive. We weren't aggressive.
He needs to put out a big side. He needs to play both Danso and Romero somehow. You've got Mickey van der Ven, but you need strong, tough players. Bergwell, he has a go. He's not timid. Anyway, sorry to keep you. Fingers crossed for a 1-1.
Fingers crossed.
Nice
Fingers crossed indeed.
Sorry, I didn't say that in the beginning, and nice to see you again, Chris, too.
Cheers, Steve. Speak to you soon.
All right.
Cheers.
All the best. Cheers, mate.
Gary, this is the thing with the fan shows. We could talk to people all night long, and you and I love talking about Spurs, and we've got some of these guests coming on. We could literally talk to them all night. We do have a couple left, so we're going to get through them. We're going to go to South Africa to speak to Linton. Linton, how are you?
Yeah, Chris, I'm well, thank you. Apart from the last week, which was very disappointing. I don't know what to say about it. I really don't.
How are you feeling about Thomas Frank right now? Is he going to turn this around, or are we going to get 2 good results this coming week?
About Thomas Frank, well, I'm still Frank in. We have to give him time. I've got to caveat that by saying, has he got the players on his side? And that's the big question. And if he's got the players on his side, then definitely, then I'm Frank in. If not, then obviously the club have to relook at the situation.
There's a lot of things on social media, like Chris was alluding to. The players coming out, they say relatively the same things. Let's be together. Let's be together. But we need to start seeing that on the pitch. And I think especially the last week, we haven't. I'm in agreement with a number of the people that have come on here. I think the next month, 2 months is a really critical time for us as a football club. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, it is. And this is a crucial period now. I was just listening to what Steve was saying, and I do hope he's wrong. But the games come thick and fast now, and this next month, especially up until the New Year, is a crucial period for us, and we have to turn that home form around. Definitely.
We've had two home wins in the last 21. We are the gift that keeps on giving at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Some people refer it to as the Beyonce Stadium, but we need to start building this into more of a fortress. Where is that going to come from, do you think, Linton?
I think it starts on the pitch. I really do. Again, I've listened to Thomas Frank's comments about the fans, but the players have got to give the fans something to cheer about. And, it starts with him. It starts with recognizing a game plan, trying to see what they're trying to achieve on the pitch. And then the players have got to show some heart, some desire, some fight, they're an easy touch at the moment. They're just too easy to play against. There's no mongrel in them. There's no, let's become a feisty team. Let's become a team that other teams don't want to play against. We just seem to be a soft touch, and that's and especially at home. Let's do that. And I think if the fans see some fight, they'll get behind the side and not concede soft goals like we did yesterday.
No, we're always a fan base that will always get behind. We'll back you until from the first minute to the end, and all season long. We will back you, but you've got to give us something too. It's give or take. It can't always be put on the fans. We have an incredible stadium. The atmosphere is struggling at times, but I think that you've hit it nail on the head there. That we're not getting anything back on the pitch. Somebody said earlier that his season ticket was something like £2,000. That's nearly £700 a win. That's on average. It's not acceptable. It's not. I mean, it's not.
No, but like I've said, they have to give the fans something. Just watching that game yesterday, and then conceding 2 early goals, and that whole first half was there was just something. There was like just a little bit more in the second half, but again, it was just a period that we went through that it looked a bit positive. You look at the Arsenal game, and okay, my daughter is an Arsenal supporter, and she was saying to me she was expecting more of a fight from us, and she said that we just seemed so timid, and she was expecting a proper North London derby. Where's those North London derbies we used to have? There's just nothing. And look, let me be very honest. We've got a bang average side. I don't see us. We lost 2 world-class players in Kane and Son. We haven't replaced Son. We've replaced Kane with an average striker who's spent all season on the sideline. We don't have any world-class players, so our recruitment has been poor, and so from January is a difficult window, but we have to be preparing now to do something spectacular in January, although it's difficult, but certainly by the summer. And Chris, you alluded to it earlier, after we'd won the Europa League, and we became champions of that. One would have thought that we would have kicked on in the summer. It's reminiscent of being in the Champions League final, and then we didn't kick on. So we haven't learned from our mistakes, and people say we can't blame Levy anymore, but I still think we can, because it's still pretty much a squad that he's bought. We still, that Levy legacy is still there, and that's still going to linger for the next 2 or 3 seasons until we really start getting, the post Levy legacy starts now, or that we can leave that behind. I mean, I'll give you a typical example, and I know he's been picked on a little bit tonight, and maybe deservedly so. I mean, 2 years ago, we were in for David Raya as a goalkeeper, but Levy didn't want to pay the 40 million that Brentford wanted. So we went for, I'm going to say it, the cheaper option in Vicario that we got for about 12 or 15 million. And you have a look at how Raya's playing for Arsenal, and you have a look at how Vicario's playing. I mean, and all season for me, Vicario's been extremely shaky. Even when standing on the line, he seemed shaky and knocking a lot of balls on, and he just hasn't. I don't know. I just don't. He doesn't fill me with confidence.
Linton, last question. What players do you enjoy watching in this current squad? I know you just said about you feel like we don't have world-class players, but what players do you enjoy watching in this current Tottenham Hotspur squad?
I've enjoyed Cowlin and Gary the last 2 games, and hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But Van der Ven's always value for money. And apart from that, there's not much else. I think
that quite worrying, Linton, that we're a Tottenham side that is wanting to progress in all these competitions and be a big club. And I'm actually scratching my head at who I would say my favourite player is. I used to play as a striker for years, played at a decent level, and then went on to be a manager. I always liked the flair player, the Gareth Bales, and Teddy Sheringham was someone I used to try and like play a little bit like, and your Jurgen Klinsmann and, you know, Messi and things like that. I don't see anybody at the moment in our club that I'm like really excited by. Javi Simmons but he's just not getting the game time. And we lost Harry Kane and Son. We don't have anybody that's Kudus maybe is probably that exception that's getting us off our feet with expectations, but everybody else seems to play safe.
Yeah. And Kudus has been quiet the last few games. Okay, he came to life in the second half yesterday, but you know the last two games, so he's been quiet as well. He's been pretty much like the rest of the players. But Gary, you're absolutely right. You know, we love the flair players, and Gareth Bale,
Ginola. How did I forget Ginola?
Yeah, absolutely. Ginola was exceptional as well. And then we go back to the older players, the Hoddles and the Gascoignes and those guys. But I mean those are generations ago. But now in this current squad, there's nobody really. Javi Simmons, I'm still expecting a lot from him. I think that he will give him this season, and hopefully next season he'll get more game time and he'll shine. You know, it's going to take him some time to adapt, but I do think he has got that ability in him.
Absolutely.
Linton, thank you so much for joining us again, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Good. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Right, we've got two guests left. We've got Steve and Charlie. Steve, let's come to you. Charlie, we'll come to you next. Steve, how are you doing? What have you made of this past week? Are you behind Thomas Frank?
Last week's been disappointing. Am I behind Thomas Frank? Yes, but only just. I don't see how it can continue the way it's going, because I'm worried about the next few games that we've got, because I can't see us getting a win. So what's more concerning is the stuff that he's coming out with in these press conferences and stuff. Like he was asked the other day by a reporter, when I spoke to you a few months ago, you said you would lose games. And he goes, you are losing games. And he said, yeah, well, I've been a success with that then, haven't I? That's worrying. Don't want to hear that from your manager, do you? So, yeah, sorry I've come on so late. I've been out today, so I only saw the email late. So I do apologise, guys. So it's not great, is it?
No, more than welcome. And I think you're right in how Thomas Frank's reacting at the moment. Do you think that the pressure is kind of getting to him, and he's realising not only he's at a more demanding club, but the eyeballs are on him pretty much every other day, and maybe that's starting to drain him, because it's certainly drained a lot of other managers that we had recently. Do you think that he's perhaps struggling with that, adapting from being from Brentford to Tottenham?
Oh yeah, because Tottenham's a massive step up from Brentford, but with regards to we don't know what. Obviously, Levy's gone. If Levy was still here, do you think Thomas Frank would have gone by now?
Personally, no, I don't see him leaving this season. I think it's a disaster for the club if they sack him anytime soon. In my opinion, I think going off of the fan base's huge reaction to Ange, to letting him go, and then the person they bring in, they let him go within 5-6 months. I think it's a disaster for the club, and I think they're very, very image conscious rather than. I think their image is number one, and then the success of the football team comes at second.
But if results don't say we lose our next, or we don't win our next sort of 5 or 6 Premier League games, do you think that the club will, because the club have come out and said, oh, we've got this amount of money to spend in January, we're going to spend it, we want a striker, we want a winger, that's our priority. Do you think they're going to chuck money at?
I don't know about that, Steve. I don't know about the wording of that. I don't know whether the wording is actually we are going to spend £100 million. £100 million has been injected into the club. We don't know how much money is actually going to be spent in January, if at all. So that's going to be that's going to be something that we've got to wait to see what happens. But like I said earlier, I think the proof in the pudding about ambition is truly in the summer transfer window, because as we all know, being really realistic about it, the January window is very, very difficult to bring in any type of quality, any top player who leaves in January unless they're not getting on with a manager, or unless they're really out of form where a manager feels like they can get the best out of them. So a January window is very, very difficult. Talking about results in the next 5 or 6, if you fail to win your next 5 or 6 games, then I feel like Thomas Frank is going to be in trouble, because no football club is ever going to stand still and just watch a manager lose game after game. But if there is, a sense that we are progressing and, giving good performances, then you can hang on to that. But when you're not getting the results and you're not seeing progressive performances, then that is going to be an issue.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, the PSG game, I know we lost, but I saw more in that game than I'd seen for a while. In the first sort of 10 minutes, I saw a lot, and I was encouraged by the performance. But then you go back to yesterday, and it was the first sort of 10 minutes. It's just like,
yeah,
seriously. And then there was just nothing in the first half. I think we broke another stat yesterday: 17 crosses in the first half, and not one of our players got head to it. And that's a new record or so. So we just keep on breaking these stats. These
unwanted records, exactly. We've never been 2-0 down after 6 minutes in a Premier League game either, which all of these stats week in, week out, we seem to be breaking, and it's not good enough. Things do need to change very, very quickly. Steve,
Chris, sorry, you go to all the games, Chris. I mean, what is the reaction like? Because TV tells you something completely different, but what is the reaction like in the stadium?
Well, people obviously want to win football matches. I feel like the expectation was a lot higher. I think a lot of people thought that we would be seeing a lot more entertaining football. And I'll say it again, a couple of weeks ago after the Manchester United game, I went on Sky and they said, "What do you think of the game?" And I said, most of today, that Man United game, certainly in that first half, no shots on target in the opening 45 minutes. I said, I'm going to use the word that I've heard all day, and that was boring. A lot of people were absolutely bored of watching the opening 45 minutes of not having a shot on target. And I tell you, Steve, that's what really worries me inside the stadiums, whether it's home or away, when you can have 45-minute spells, either first half, second halves, of not having a shot on target. That is not good enough. And, people expect a lot more entertaining football. And as I said on the podcast after the Fulham defeat, to dare is to do is our club motto. We're not daring at the moment, and we're not doing at the moment. And that is what is worrying for me. I hope that Thomas Frank dramatically turns this around. And I hate that term of, are you a manager? Are you in or are you out? You can be in between, and you can still hope it does work, but I do sense that Thomas Frank does need a lot of help in transfer windows. He does need a lot of decent players. He needs completely different players, but at the same time, while you're trying to progress and while you're trying to build a team and build the club in, to try and compete for top honours and being able to compete on all fronts, you do need to see progressive performances. You do need to see signs in games, 100%. Steve, finally, what's your score predictions for the upcoming 2 games? Newcastle on Tuesday and Brentford at home on Saturday, because like the old-fashioned saying goes, there's no easy games in the Premier League. What's an easy game nowadays?
To be honest with you, I'm fearful for the Newcastle game after what's happened the last 3 years. Going back to was it 6-1 when we were 5-0 down at half time? I'm fearful of that one, definitely. Brentford at home, I can't see us winning either. Maybe a draw if we're lucky, but Keith Andrews has got Brentford playing really well. So, I can't. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping Spurs shock me and get 2 wins out of 2, but after yesterday, I can't see it, guys, at the minute. But I'll always back the club. I'll always back our players. I don't agree with booing players or individual players. And I'll always back a manager that's at the club at the minute. So while they're there, while the players are there, I'll back them. And hopefully they can turn it around. And we'll see what happens in January. But Thanks for having me on again, guys. So I'm losing my voice. So, but yeah, thanks
Right.
for having me, guys.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to
All
talk
right,
to you
take care.
again, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later,
Cheers.
guys. Thank you. Promise.
Thanks, mate.
Right, we're now going to go to our final guest of the evening. We're going to go to Charlie. Charlie, how are you?
I'm like all of us. Another defeat. Not good enough. Before we get into it, before I go on and on, I just wanted to ask you two some quick questions. Where do you guys stand on Frank? Are you Frank in or are you Frank out right now?
Chris, you want to go first?
I've said this already, Charlie. I don't know whether you've heard, how much you've heard this evening, but I'm not either in or out at the moment. Would I be disappointed if he went? No. Would I be surprised if he went? No. I just want to see progressive performances, and it's got to be better. It has to be better. I do feel like Thomas Frank is under a little bit of pressure amongst the fan base right now, but we've gone through so many different managers. I always want it to work for a manager, always. I think, in my lifetime, I've only ever come out and said that a manager has to go, and that was Nuno Espirito Santo, because at that point, you just knew that it wasn't going to work. And when the fan base sung the song of "You don't know what you're doing" when he took Lucas Moura off in that Manchester United game, there was no way back for him. And that's when I come out and said, look, something drastically needs to change. But you cannot keep losing games and not showing signs of progression. So that's where I am at the moment. So I'm neither in or out. And I said this earlier. I hate that bracket of you've got to be in or you've got to be out. You can be in between.
And Gary?
Yeah, I'm very much in a similar space. Last week, I was very, very still pro Thomas Frank, and kind of still am. I think we need to judge him based on multiple transfer windows. My biggest worry is the rinse and repeat that we continuously keep doing after 12 to 18 months. We can't go through that. And we've gone through every type of manager in terms of their style or philosophies. We've had a win now manager. We've had one that wants to develop players. We've had another one that wants to win now. We've had another one that's on the rise. And we can't keep going through these rinse and repeats because each manager demands certain players. Antonio Conte wanted win now players. He was given Jed Spence. He was quite open with that. He didn't want Jed Spence. And this isn't me picking on Jed Spence, but this is an example. And we need to back a manager for a longer period of time. And we have to realize that this is a real rebuilding process. In 2019, I think we got it wrong and not rebuilding that squad under Pochettino. I think he deserved the time. And we ended that after 6 months later because he was struggling and he wasn't backed. We need to understand now that we have to rebuild this football club. And I think the fan base is always going to want us to win and win trophies and win everything. And I do. But I think that we really need to have a focus, a long-term focus, and stick to that. However, on the caveat of that is if we are not winning football games and we're consistently losing, that ultimately that person isn't right. And no matter how much we want to find that long-term vision, they may not be the right person for it. So it is a really fine line at the moment. And you can look at how well Arsenal did. They were struggling. They got rid of a lot of deadwood, brought in a lot of players that Mikel Arteta wanted, and they've progressed on. Manchester United probably could have got rid of Amorim. They've come out and said he's got 3 years. They've backed him in the transfer window, and now he's starting to turn that over. Other clubs have done the same. So it's a real big fine line. Last night driving home, 90-minute drive, I was really angry with the performance and then with what he said after the game. So I was getting more worked up. Now, 24 hours later, I understand it's not his completely his fault. I think that the recruitment over a long period is what's causing the issues here. So I'm very much on the fence at the moment. I'm probably slap bang in the middle.
No, I'd have to agree with both of you there. I'd say I'm also in the middle. I don't want to be going around saying, "Oh, Frank out," and he's still relatively quite new. But I'm not going to go around saying, "Oh, we have to give him the time," which I think we do, but give him time to lose more games, to to go lower in the table. I'm not for that. So I am in the middle. I do want to give him time, but if it keeps going on like this, he has to go. But then again, I don't think the players are good enough. Richarlison, name me one good thing he did yesterday. I don't think you can. Name me one good thing he did against PSG except for tapping the ball in the goal with his head. I don't think you can. Name me one good thing he did against Arsenal except for his amazing goal. I don't think you can. And that goal was amazing, to be fair. But we were 3-0 down, Why can't we do that when it's 0-0? So I don't think he's good enough. Bentancur had never been at the level since he was after his injury against Leicester. No, before his injury against Leicester. I think Danso, I'm starting to see him as, you're not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. I can see now why they wanted to sign a centre-back at the end of January. Because,
Charlie, what does that mean? What does that actually mean? Not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. So, is your ambition the same as mine? If you want Spurs, or you expect Spurs to be a consistent Champions League club, i.e., finishing in the top 4? Is that what you mean? Because whenever I use a term similar to that, I always say it as though I want Spurs to be a top team. Or do we need to be? Or do we, as a fan base, including me and you, now need to be a little bit more realistic? We finished 17th last year. Thomas Frank has reminded us of that. So, if we finish mid-table this year, is that acceptable?
Yeah, I just want to touch on the thing they said about Frank and 17th. That is awful for him to say that we are, when he goes into an interview and he goes, you have to remember we finished 17th last year. Finishing 17th in the Premier League was a sacrifice to win that Europa League. We wouldn't be in the Champions League this year had we not finished 17th, I don't think. So I think if we put full focus on the league, we wouldn't have won that Europa League. Back to the question, though. Top 4 Tottenham, yes. But I'm okay with us not being in the top 4 every year. I want us qualifying for Europe every year. I always look back to Angie's first season where we only played 41 games. I didn't really enjoy that season. I love watching Tottenham in midweek. And yes, it might kill the players and it might, bring us down on the weekend. But we need to be a team now prepared to do that on the weekend, to fight, have a squad with enough players who are fit. So I do want to see this. I want to see us qualifying for Europe as a bare minimum. I really enjoyed last year. So many games, Oh, Tottenham are playing this week. Oh, playing again. We're playing again. Oh, amazing again.
But a lot of people are employed by the football club to give the manager the tools and the players that they need to be able to compete on all fronts. And the reason why I keep using that term, competing on all fronts, is because Daniel Levy used that exact term. He is the reason why a lot of us fans use that term, because that's what he said. So the football club need to prepare. Like I said earlier, I don't know whether you heard this, Charlie, about Heung-min Son going out the door, and then we've been left short on the left-hand side in terms of quality, goals, and assists.
I'm sorry, but if we have sold Sonny, we had to find a replacement. The club would have made more than $1 million on shirt sales. I think there was no need to sell him unless we were going to replace him. Had he stayed at the club, I'd have probably got his shirt this year. So there's a shirt sale for Sonny. And I'm sure everyone would get one because, he's the Europa League winning captain. But he hasn't stayed. And, they took 20 million from LA and didn't replace him, I'm not impressed with that. But
I think, again, as a recruitment is an issue, isn't it? Yeah. It's not having a foresight into what we're doing now and what we need to do in the future. And I think that we're suffering now because of it, because there's a glaring problem on that left-hand side without him.
But in all fairness to Frank, like you said, Chris, he is going to need the tools to build a good team. You can't just employ a manager to a club who, let's say Wolves, yeah, they're bottom of the Premier League, they're going to finish bottom. If they have any chance of staying up, they're going to have to back Rob Edwards in this January transfer window and go big, or they're going to go to the Championship. If they don't do that, I don't know how they're going to be able to blame Rob Edwards. It's like last year with Ivan Juric at Southampton. They completely you know, they gave him nothing and it just got worse and worse. Obviously, I see Tottenham as a much better club than Southampton and Wolves. You know, I do think we have players that, you know, I look at our squad and we should be a lot higher in the table, I think. Like you said, the way Arsenal and Chelsea played today, they're playing great football. And then there's us, you know. It's not good enough, and I'm really not impressed. Frank, I wanted to have a quick go on it about something in interviews. He needs to stop this, you know. The fans aren't good enough. I'm sorry. It might. I think Tottenham is quite a toxic fan base, but Thomas, this is what you've signed up for. You can't be making these complaints. You know, the fans are the ones who pay his wages, who come to the games, who travel far, and I do understand what he's saying about booing Vicario. I mean, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I was fuming yesterday when he made that mistake. I play in the back for my team. If I was ever in that situation, I'm not a goalie, I'm kicking it out of play. If that was the goalie's definitely kicking out of play. I think maybe Vicario would have kicked out of play. I wonder, is Frank not wanting him to kick out of play? Is Frank saying, look, play our football, let's not kick it out of play. Let's find a pass, you know. Don't get me wrong, what was Vicario doing there? I don't know. Booing him was fine. And I'm not gonna be honest, I did boo him yesterday, and I truly do regret booing him. I shouldn't have booed him. And I apologise for booing him. But I was just so angry at the time. You know, I remember everyone in that South Stand standing up, punching their hands, you know, fuming at what he's just done. You know, 2-0 down in 6 minutes to Fulham. But then I knew exactly what Fulham would do at that point. I said it in my video. I go, Fulham are just going to sit back now and we're not going to attack. We're going to do absolutely nothing. And we didn't. We did absolutely nothing. Obviously, Kuda scored, but I think Leno should have saved that personally. And I'm just really not impressed. And Thomas Frank, he needs to sort it out. You know, Newcastle midweek on Tuesday. I'm sorry, I do not see us winning that. I see us getting thumped. I see us getting completely thumped. Brentford, I went to watch Brentford play against Liverpool this year, a friend. They play very good, and I like it. And I'd like Tottenham to play that way. You know, Keith Andrews seems more daring than Thomas Frank, and he was his set-piece coach. I just don't know I have no words. You know, I haven't even done my player ratings yet, Chris. I was that angry about it yesterday. I will do them tomorrow, though. Yeah, you know, we need to play better football, and I want to say, if Frank does go, who do we bring in? Poch at the end of the season, Pochettino, bring him back. I'd bring him back tomorrow if I could. I think we all would. I keep hearing people say Ange. I'm not so sure. I was a big fan of Ange. Obviously, through the season, I was against him. But when we won that Europa League, I was a big fan of him. You know, I've never seen us win a trophy before. And he brought it home. We lifted that cup. But I don't think I'd bring him back. I don't.
Sometimes it's better not to go back. Sometimes when you have a nice feeling about something, you can tarnish that feeling. And I love Pochettino, and sometimes I think, will that love go if he came back? And I guess the same with Ange. You know, I'm very appreciative of what he did, but if he came back, would that appreciation go quite quickly and turn sour? We can all agree that it wasn't what we liked, but we can all agree that he brought us something that we'll cherish forever.
There's no way that Ange's coming back.
No, he's not going to come back. But I'm just saying, sometimes it's not good to go back.
But with Pochettino, he is probably the only manager at Tottenham in my whole that I've seen work. Obviously, Ange won the trophy, but 17th was awful. He is the only one.
Someone mentioned in the chat Harry Redknapp. Okay, I would take Harry Redknapp.
I would,
and he's 70. We would get a lot better football, and we would have progressive football. We would have progressive football under Harry Redknapp. He wouldn't do it. He's not. We had David Pleat there yesterday.
Yeah, bring him back.
And he was bang on the money on a lot of things he was saying on there. And I'd have at one point I was like, get him in that dugout. We're going old school in terms of little things we're doing. You know, it's not a bad thing to have these experienced people around you.
Xavi Hernandez, I've followed him for a very long time since he was coaching in Asia. And when he was at Barcelona, you know, they sacked him because he told everyone something everyone already knew, that Barcelona have no money. I'd love him to come to Tottenham. I think he's a top coach and can bring some great football. I mean, one of my friends said to me the other day, let's just get Pep at the end of the season. And I said, that's never going to happen in a million years. So yeah.
With Xavi Hernandez, and I like Xavi Hernandez. Now, I would be very pro Xavi Hernandez. Now, the reason I say what I'm going to say is, again, it's a different style of manager. So again, we're going to have to then recruit for that style of manager, and we have a really poor inability to sell footballers at our club. So again, we would then struggle to get those players out, to get the ones he needs to come in, and then there needs to be patience, and we just don't have that patience as a fan base.
Go on, Chris.
I was going to say, Charlie, last question for you. How do you see this next week going in terms of Newcastle and Brentford? Because it's fair to say we need a result. We need a performance. We need 3 points, especially at home. That Brentford game for me, I know, you know, every single guest that had come on this evening on this 3-hour fan show, every single one of you has predicted a Newcastle win. Not one person has come on here and said that they feel that we will get a reaction and we will get the 3 points at St James's Park. But I can tell you now, the Brentford game next Saturday, we need a win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for so many reasons. How do you see this next 7 days going?
Well, I'm going to give it to you in short terms, and then I'm going to go deeper. Loss. I can't see us beating Newcastle, and our home record is so bad. And I'm sorry, how is it going to improve in the space of a week? We haven't won at home since August. I remember the week we went to the Super Cup. That was so long ago. That was so long ago. And I think, wow, that weekend was the last time we won a game at home in the Premier League. That is embarrassing. If you actually, if you have a Premier League app, you can press home and see if only home games were counted in the Premier League. We would sit 19th in the table if it was only home games. It is not okay. And I just can't see it change in the space of a week. Newcastle will hit us. Our confidence will just go down and down and down. We'll lose to Brentford. And I can just see fans. I hope we don't lose to Brentford, obviously. You know, I support Tottenham. If we do lose to Brentford, that's when I can see a major part of the fan base turning on him. I don't know how many guests have come on here tonight and said, you know, in, out. But I said on my thing last night, my matchday vlog, if we don't win tonight, I can see a lot of fans turning on him. I think a fair share of fans did turn on him last night. If we lose the next 2 games, it's only going to get worse. And I ain't going to go against Frank. We've got to give him till the end of the season, I think, unless it goes really south. But not all fans are going to think the same as me. Some are going to think that let's bring in Xavi Hernandez, let's approach Pochettino. Some will say bring Ange back, you know, and I think that's what the majority of fans will say is, can we get a new manager? Can we get Xavi in now? I want to wait to the end of the season. If it hasn't been a good season, I'd just bring Poch back after the World Cup, and I'd say put Matt Wells in for pre-season, and as soon as USA are out of that World Cup, he signs the contract. But yeah, Chris, Gary, thank you for having me on. It's been a great show tonight. I've been listening to it while I do my homework, and let's hope that this next week, which I see going so bad, goes so well, and we get 6 points. And this happy days. Next time I come on here, I'll have a smile on my face, unlike tonight.
Hopefully.
Just last thing, we've all been complaining that it's too flat at Tottenham this season. Well, I must say it doesn't feel flat anymore. It feels all negative, and I want to go back to feeling flat, I must say. But thank you very much.
Charlie, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers. Gary, Charlie was our final guest. I hope you enjoyed today's fan show in some ways. It has been quite depressing in parts of this. But I normally say, like Craig normally does these shows with me, and I normally say at the end that we've had a fair mix of emotions and thoughts and feelings, but everyone seems to be pretty much on the same page right now.
Yeah, I thought we were probably split more than we are split, actually. And there's more agreements than anything else. The sheer vast of people from different countries as well, that traditionally, that, let's be fair, a lot of them probably don't get to go to the games as regular as you and I. Their opinions are pretty much very similar to us that goes to those games. So they're diehard just as much as we are. And sometimes I think as a fan base, we kind of don't take that into consideration. But we are quite united in that we're going to lose on Tuesday. And we need to get behind Thomas Frank, but we're just not happy with what's being seen at the moment. So yeah, it's not as depressing as maybe last season probably would have been towards the end. But I think there's certainly promise. But it's definitely that this fan base wants something to latch onto, and they're begging it to be Thomas Frank. They're begging it.
Yeah. But of course, Gary, we all want it to work. I don't think there's any Spurs fan will ever say, I don't want this to work. Of course, we all want it to work. We all never, ever want to see our football club lose matches, particularly in the fashion and the manner that we have, and particularly in certain games like Chelsea at home, Arsenal away. You want to see a lot more, certainly. So we all hope that things do improve dramatically and Thomas Frank can start winning football matches at Tottenham Hotspur again. Because every single stat we keep saying, 3.5 months not winning a Premier League game at home. I really do hope that changes on Saturday against Brentford. Of course, his old side. He certainly wants to be winning a home game, and he will certainly be wanting to win against his old club as well. Gary, I can't thank you enough for these 3 hours. You've been absolutely brilliant. Hopefully, you can come back on again very soon with one of these, and of course, you'll be back on the Spurs Chat podcast, I think, on Tuesday after the Newcastle game.
Yeah, let's hope it's not as depressing. Let's hope that there's something to latch onto, because it's going to be a long night otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you so much. Where can people find you? What you're up to at the moment? You've started a new YouTube channel, Project Spurs. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, just putting some thoughts together, just inviting people on. I'm very open to any opinion. Your opinion is your opinion. I'm not gonna, mine might be mine. You bring what you feel. Everybody's welcome. Even if you don't want to come on live, you're a little bit unsure of being on camera, you can send it in. Whatever you want to do, just another place for you to air your voice. Mainly on Twitter, Gary R. Ward. But yeah, look, keep supporting Chris and this channel. Keep supporting all the Tottenham creators as well, and just keep supporting Spurs. Keep that positivity up. When we get into those stadiums, let's get behind the team. But as always, thanks for having me on. It's been good, a good 3 hours, but some really good takes and a lot of alignment where I thought perhaps we were a little bit more split than perhaps we're not, actually. So appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. And thank you to all of the guests this evening. Always love having all of your input. And as Gary said, it's always great to have so many people come on, particularly around the world, and, to get all your thoughts and feelings about our beloved club, Tottenham Hotspur. Now, let's hope that we can get back to winning ways at St James's Park on Tuesday. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but as Gary also said, get behind the team, and hopefully we can start picking up points and climbing up that Premier League table again. Thanks so much for all of your support. And if you would like to appear on a future fan show, please do send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com, and it'd be great to talk to you on a future show. Enjoy your week, and we will see you on the next one. Until then, come on, you Spurs.